Because they don't want you to know what's going on.
How are you?
We'll have the next, we'll have the next three meetings. Where we're gonna
I think I just go upstairs. I was so pissed. Because I came to lift.
Yeah, it takes you a minute to set this up, doesn't it?
That's all, that's what they had to do. I thought so. Probably I haven't heard anything. No good news. I'm gonna make sure you guys know what the next game is. Listen, not a single one of you have reminded me. You guys forgotten about who I am? There's no breakdown on the back.
I'll just get
Thank you.
How are you? Nice haircut. Thank you, sir. Taking pictures at the church. Did they? Don't worry. If that was your goal, you made it.
Just one, two.
I talked to her about 2 weeks ago, but we just talked about this. I think it was before I had it. They might not know.
Y'all may have to slide together like you like each other. I don't know. Got a few more in the hall here.
Slide that way.
Can you cut the sound off? Oh, the microphone is up there. We're cool. We can talk back here. Say that mean old Bob. We can talk about that. I can't permission. Test 1, 2, 3. 4, 5, 6. How are you, Joe?
Good.
How'd you do at your barbecue dinner?
Pretty good.
Good.
1,600.
Is that what it was?
What was it, Joe? Dinner?
That was profit on it? That's good.
What was it?
1,600.
That's good. Real good.
Oh, we can hear you.
Oh, great. That's wonderful.
So much for that. But I can hear them, so it's probably picking up out of both on the phone.
Capacity? I think so.
I've gone along with that rope.
All right, we'll call the May 14th meeting of the Macon County Board of Commissioners to order. Hear me okay? Sure. We're obviously going to have a very busy meeting tonight, so just a few rules of order that I'd like for everybody to follow. As we go through items and you feel the need to leave, if you can just wait till the item that we're on is completed, and then just quietly slip out, and I'll give you time to go, just so it doesn't interrupt. If I could also silence all your cell phones so we can keep on track, I'd be appreciative of that as well. Again, I'd like to welcome all of you. We'll get a lot of you the opportunity to speak here in a few minutes. There's a lot of people here to present to us. I guess the big item tonight is get our county manager's recommended budget. I think we're all kind of looking forward to seeing that, and it's going to open up a lot of discussion over the next 6 weeks to 2 months. So looking forward to that. So with that being said, is there any announcements? Okay. Let's all rise. We'll observe a few seconds of silence, and I'll ask Commissioner Gillespie to lead us in the pledge, please.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Chairman, I am sorry, one quick announcement about the passing of Mr. Bob Litton. For those of you who didn't know Mr. Bob, he was a World War II veteran, very active in many things, was a very, Mr. Shields can speak to that too, and on the Veterans Memorial, very instrumental in that. His service will be the 25th at 2 o'clock. And I guess if the crowd will hold it, we're still going to have it down at the Veterans. At the VFW, as far as we know now. That's the 25th at 2 o'clock. So a lot of us worked a lot with Mr. Litton, so keep that family in your prayers. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Commissioner Bill. We're going to go ahead, we have a public hearing, we'll call into order revisions to the Macon County Comprehensive Plan. Any changes, any notes? I think we have a couple people signed up to speak to it. Any comments from any commissioner? Mr. Chairman? Any comments?
I just want to thank the planning board members. It's been a long process that we worked on this for the last 3 years, and hopefully everyone's had time to review it. And if there are any revisions or questions that y'all have for us, we'll be glad to answer them. Hopefully it's a good and completed document. That's all I've got to say about it.
All right. Thank you, Judge.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, just like to add in Jackie, fill in the gaps, but comprehensive plan is a requirement in the state transportation improvement program. And through our revisions to this plan, through our having this plan, it will result in us getting points. The state transportation system, when you're looking at transportation projects, assigns each project a point value. A higher point value is given to those projects in counties where a comprehensive plan is both active and in place. And so that is one of the drivers, that was the driver behind creating it the first time, as well as laying out that blueprint for the county. But here in making these revisions, that will also ensure that we continue to receive that point allocation above and beyond what we would receive should we not have it in place.
Okay, thank you. I have 2 people signed up. I know sometimes when we have public hearings, people will get confused on which boards, but we've got 2 comments sheets up front. One was for our public comment period. One was for this public hearing on the Macon County Comprehensive Plan. So I've got Donna Majerus.
I signed the wrong one.
Okay, so you're going to speak to the comprehensive plan or the public comment? Public comment, okay. I'll remove you from that. And we have Rick Green signed up for comprehensive plan? Public comment, okay. I'll move you both over there. Is there anyone in the public that would like to address this board in the Macon County about the Macon County Comprehensive Plan update?
will say, Mr. Chairman, it also not only affects what the town does also. If you notice, the points are applied to everything from backwalks to sidewalks. It's a complicated, typical bureaucratic system, but it works. So we didn't do too well this go around, but we did real well the last time. So without the comprehensive plan, you just don't have a chance. So it affects Highlands, it affects Franklin, and of course the entire county and secondary. So it's, and Carl can speak to the work of the planning board, but reading through the few changes, it wasn't many changes overall, but it's a very good document. Thank you for all your work, Joe and all of that.
Can I ask members of planning board please stand with your present? These folks give their time. I've been fortunate to be on the planning board, work with the planning board. The comprehensive plan is my most favorite thing. So, I just want to say thank you to all the planning board for all the hard work. They went through this document page by page, cleaned up what needs to be cleaned up, updated what needs to be updated. And maybe the way it went forward, it's a good thing. So, I think this is a tool that we can use, as well as the criteria that Derek referred to and Bill referred to earlier as well. So, great job. Any other comments? All right, any other comments from the public? I'll close the public hearing, and I guess ready to entertain a motion. Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we adopt the document as submitted. Second. A motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So, Mike, that was a motion by Commissioner Gillespie, second by Commissioner Schultz. Thank y'all, planning board.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, that was all work.
Well, you can't leave.
No, welcome to stay.
I've got a livestock clinic that I'm in charge of. It started 7 months ago, so all right, I'm going to excuse
Slide on
myself.
out.
40 youngins sitting outside waiting.
All right, we're going to move on to our public comment period. First up is Ms. Tamara.
Yeah.
Ms. Winnett, is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Welcome.
Thank
Macon
you.
County Library.
Thank you, Commissioner Tate and Commissioners. I'm speaking before you tonight regarding the budget allocation for the Macon County Library. Let me begin by saying libraries are crucial to an informed citizenry. The library is funded by the taxpayers. The staff are government employees accountable to the public. The public expects employees to provide the best service possible in addition to safeguarding and using taxpayer money according to public law. When the library can charge a room fee, and it doesn't, that may constitute a misuse of taxpayer monies. Public corruption is like a poisoned well. You don't know it until it's too late. It is crucial that employees understand there is a separation between public and private entities, and where these interact, the public must be informed. Employees should welcome comments and criticism from the public. Unfortunately, this has not been my experience with the Macon County Library, although I do have to say it's an excellent institution. Let me be more specific. There was an event in the large meeting room last week. As I was speaking with the event holders, I was drawn aside by a library employee who said the event was closed. I had already asked if it was open, and I was told by the venue holder it was advertised here as open. We were concerned about just how many people the library staff had turned away. A while back, I asked about how meeting rooms were rented out for events. Instead of providing the information, I was confronted with staff who did not listen to my questions, staff who misinterpreted what I was asking, and staff who cut off the conversation, unfortunately, with an insult. This is wholly unacceptable from government employees. This is
why I'm asking you tonight for an exact accounting of how library meeting rooms are rented, how fee exemptions are granted, how many exemptions were granted last year, and to whom, on what basis. Why? Because this is a source of revenue for the library. Furthermore, in order to improve staff performance, there should be a very clear process for filing complaints, and every complaint should be given a response. Finally, in order for staff to perform according to public expectations, the county should incorporate complaints, founded complaints, and public input into staff training. We can't expect staff to perform according to the law if they don't know when they may be breaking it. Thank you for your time. And again, I really love the library. I go there almost every day.
You know that those employees are not county employees.
Oh, they're not county
They
employees?
work for the Fontana Regional Library.
And who funds that? But the library isn't in your budget?
The three counties fund the Fontana Regional Library.
So they do get some funds from Macon County?
That's right. So, and from Jackson and from Swain.
So if somebody were
But
wanting to,
the head librarian and all the employees are employees of Fontana Regional Library.
and if you're applying for a job there at the library, who do you apply to?
I would go to Employment Security Commission.
And that covers the three counties?
Yeah, if there's an opening in the library, it'll be advertised through our Division of Workforce Solutions.
Okay, so anyway, if you could review that portion of your budget, because I'll tell you what, there's a few $1,000s, maybe $2,000 or $3,000 that potentially could come in as revenue to the library by fees from room use. But I don't really know, I can't see because I don't have that information about how many of those fees are waived and how that waiver is given. I asked, but I wasn't given the information. So anyway, since part of my taxpayer money goes to fund that,
That's right.
correct? Okay, thank you. Then I'd just like some accountability.
Understand, we'll make
Thank
sure
you.
this, I want to make sure this letter is forwarded to their Fontana Regional Library Board,
Okay,
so they
thank
can
you.
address it, and hopefully they'll be back in touch with you or us to answer your questions.
Thank you so much.
You're
The
welcome.
taxpayers appreciate it.
Thank you. Mr. Manager, will you make sure that letter gets to
Yes, sir.
Fontana Regional Library Board? All right, Donna Majerus. Get through okay? Perfect. Welcome.
Would y'all take one of these and pass them around like a copy of everybody, please?
Well, you turn the lights back on.
Okay.
Sorry.
Thanks.
Thanks, Chief.
All right. County Commissioners, thank you for allowing me to speak today. I'm not a public speaker, so please bear with me. This all goes back to 2014 to 2015 nuisance ordinance. I'm back. It started with me getting several pages of signatures that I presented to you at the first meeting I attended. I went to every meeting but one. I explained what was going on at the time, and you all said that you would work on getting an ordinance going, which you did. You got close and finally signed off, however, it's not working. I've been told by Nathan's Finest that that is too big. So here I am again. The last 2 months have been the worst. This mostly deal with the revving of the engines all day, all night. You just never know when it's gonna start. I'd like to bring you back a month ago where we were threatened by a guest from our neighbor. The dog had been let out several times and had been fined by the drug people. The first time was $25, the second will be $250. I said, tie that dog up. I'm afraid of it. It also thinks our front yard is a bathroom. The guests all began to tell me to take my fat ass and my husband, my 71-year-old husband, get back on my scooter, my handicap scooter, and go back into our house. They continued yelling it and then began threatening my husband. That they were all going to beat the hell out of him, and I knew this was gonna happen. The longer it went on, one of the guys decided to come over onto our property and went towards him. His friend unjailed for him to stop and come back. My husband and I called the police and told them what was going on. They came and told us there was nothing they could do. They said that several times. So my husband asked them just to leave our home. Acted as if it was our fault. They were quite quiet for a few days. Then the cars began doing it again, proving the cars don't have to make those noises. President Association, Aaron Simmons, also hears, it's 6 houses away, and also called John Quinn, the owner of the home. What I have seen on legal papers, that there is a 2005 North Carolina Code General Statute 20-128, exhaust system and emission control devices, which you have a copy of. This is part of the nuisance ordinance, and it's SS 160.09. Read the operation of any device in violation of provisions of the chapter which causes discomfort or annoyance to reasonable people of ordinary sensibility or endanger the comfort, repose, health, or peace of residents of the county shall be deemed, and it is declared to be a public nuisance and may be subject to abatement, summary of all by restraining orders or injunctions issued by the court of competent jurisdiction. About a week or so later, there was another incident, and my husband came back in the house out on the couch and shook for 35 to 45 minutes. He said, "Get dressed, we're going to the magistrate." We were at the magistrate's office at 9:30 waiting for our turn, and then went in. Spoke to him. He suggested that we speak to the sheriff who dealt with the ordinance. So Officer Taylor met us and he said that the ordinance was too vague and nothing could be done. He then told us, he sent us up to the district attorney's office, and they said, not our department. They sent us down to Vic Perry's office, and of course was told the same thing, that's not their department. So I decided to call Ronnie Holland, and we went and met with him, and he also said that the problem we're having in this ordinance is too vague. Where do we go from here? Back to you guys. Before one of us has a heart attack, please reword this ordinance so it does not tie the officer's hands from handling these issues being brought forth. Now, I've got it there for you to see it black and white. Please take this to your next private meeting, and please rework this. It's bad. It is bad. All night long, all day long, the noise is just atrocious. And I can't take much more. Since 2014, I've been very ill. I just can't deal with it anymore. So please, thank you for allowing me to speak to you. We'll go home to bed.
Ms. Majerus, can you,
Yes.
I presume you live in the county and not in the.
Yes, I
not
live
in
off of
Franklin, so-
Clark's Chapel.
Off of Clark's Chapel, okay.
The sheriff has all your information, your address, you don't announce it here, but he has all that information?
Yes, he does.
Okay.
And I just have to say 89 Level Lane, and they all know where I'm talking about, because that's the thing. I mean, that's just a nightmare house. The house is owned by a man who lives in Lake Worth, Florida. When this noise ordinance originally took place, it was basically against his son-in-law because he was nuts. And now his grandson lives there, so he thinks he can do anything he wants also. And it's got to stop. It's got to stop. You gotta unbeg this somehow, please. On that, I can be reached. I'll be glad to sit down and talk to you.
Sheriff, if you have any thoughts on what we need to do from our perspective, would be all ears, I'm sure.
I think we can have some discussions, but the reality of it is there's a homeowner that owns this property where she's having these problems, and just like most people that have dogs that cause problems, it's usually it's not a dog problem, it's usually a pet owner problem. It's the same with this residence. It's a landlord problem who could address it if they wanted to, but they don't live here, they live elsewhere, and they're collecting their rent payment
No,
from
no,
somebody.
they're not paying the rent.
Okay, well, they could evict these people, they could do things, but, that would be a lot easier than for you all to change an ordinance. But they're not willing to do that either.
What are your recommendations you have for us on this, as far as ordinance goes? If it's something, if we pass something that's
I
something
think,
that Joe can enforce, then we need to reinvestigate what we've done.
I think what you could do is do what you did before, have a committee that looks at the ordinance. And if, since the ordinance was drafted, put that committee back into order and ask them to reevaluate. And
Probably what's it been, 3 years, 5 years?
I think about 5 years.
4 years. Okay. Probably wouldn't be a bad idea just to get y'all's feedback anyway, just see if it is being, if it's good or bad, what needs to be changed, what needs to stay the same, et cetera. Okay.
And if I remember correctly too, one of the problems is the people that are coming to visit this residence. And there our hands are sort of tied because it's not a common, it's not happening all the time. And if this person, just came today and doesn't come back for a week, it's different things are going on here.
Okay.
That don't need to be discussed in here, but we can do it privately.
Great. Okay, thanks, Sheriff. Thank you.
Thank you.
No, I'm good. Thank you.
It's pretty good driving that film.
Okay.
You're doing good.
Thanks, guys. Very much.
All right, next we have Rick Green.
Come on, baby, we're done. Yeah.
Unless you want to torture yourself and stay all evening.
I wanted to talk about reuse. I came back a few years back to take care of my grandmother, Lucille Green, who was 97, and she was having problems taking care of her house. And I started working at the Auto Recycling Center, and reuse is a big deal for me. I was working in Colorado for Boulder County. They hired me to run their household hazardous waste facility. And in 2008, we gave away, we collected 885,000 pounds of household hazardous waste. But we developed our reuse program, we were able to give away 36,000 pounds of that as reuse to save the county money in landfill space. This has become a little bigger issue for me here, working at the auto center, because I've met people who actually need these things, like clothes and shoes. People who are hurting financially, and it's a place for them to get these things they need. Even more, just recently in Christmas, somebody came by to dispose of some really nice bolts of cloth that they weren't using. And I talked to one of my colleagues, Kathy, and she turned out she knew somebody who was volunteering to make costumes for a Christmas play at the elementary school, so they could use those materials. A lot of materials like this are just being thrown away and filling up the landfill. And I think reuse is not only a way of waste diversion to help keep some of that out of there, but it also can help county residents who need this material. Not only because they need it financially, but there are other people who could reuse these materials and sell them and generate wealth, provide jobs for this county. So basically you have a reuse program, and I know at Auto Center they have the perfect spot for a reuse program, but I think one of the things that happens is, every program has lovers and haters, but only the haters call in. And the bosses have to deal with the haters. They don't hear these incredible stories of people getting, material for making play, making costumes for plays, or people who, need these things. So I would hope that you all get a little involved in that and maybe light a fire to get the program reenacted, because I really think it can benefit not only the county as far as filling up the landfill, but for people who need these things.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Good, how are you?
You still working at Oxford?
I do. Moved back to Sundays only, but I think I've given away hundreds of pounds of stuff. You have the infrastructure there to do that. I think it just needs some support from those at the top. Because like I say, all you hear, you know, all the managers and whatnot here are complaints, all the people calling in and saying, oh, you know, I didn't get something or whatever. So,
Mr. Hagan, I think you're liaison to that department, if I can mention that, discussion for us.
like I said, I know there's problems. Like I said, I know there's problems with it, but we did it in Boulder and we were giving household hazardous waste away. So I think there's ways around these problems, and I think it's a benefit to do it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, is there anyone else who'd like to address the board in Macon County? All right, going once, going twice. All right. Moving along, additions to the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I have prepared a recreation agreement consistent with the action taken by this board at the April meeting to fund some work to be done by the Upper Cartucajay Community Development Club Incorporated. I have passed that agreement out, and this, I think, would enable the county to go forward with the money that that the commissioners approved for a grant this past April.
More recommend we put that under old business 10A, item A. Anything else, Mr. Manager?
I have two things, please.
All right, Lord.
Health department staff called me today. They received $7,105 maternal health revenue from the state, and it's gotta be spent by the end of this month. So if I could add budget amendment number 225 to the consent agenda, budget amendments that are already there. Like I said, it's for $7,105. And then also, John Faith had reached out to me. He needs approval for his fiscal year 2020 weatherization and heating and air program, the application for funding, so that he can get that in to have his funding lined up for July 1st. And of course, that's the funding that there's no county match involved.
Let's put that as item 11C under new business. Anything else? Good motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Bill, second by Commissioner Shields, all in favor? Aye. All right, moving right into reports and presentations. Presentation of the recommended fiscal year 2019-2020 budget of County Manager, Mr. Derek Rowland. Derek, for you, I want to say just a few items before you get started. First item is I want the general Macon County, just for open eyes, open arms, open minds on this. This board gave our county manager some direction of some priorities that we thought were important, some goals that we thought were important. And since we've had those meetings, we've turned Derek loose and he has been working. I have to say I've admired him diligently for the past at least 6 weeks to 2 months on this. And he's not only our county manager, but he's a close friend. So I talk to him regularly, and I'm astounded at the quantity and the amount of time that he's been spending in his office, working after hours, early mornings, etc. I've called him in the office after 7 p.m., 8 p.m., 9 p.m. numerous times. So I know this budget's been weighing very hard on him because of a lot of additions, unfunded mandates, goals and priorities that we put on him. But this is the first time tonight, item number 2 that I want you to know, this is the first time tonight that we have heard this or seen this. I haven't seen it. I don't know what he's coming up with. So I know he's met with all of our department heads and some outside agencies, and he's taken all that information in. So this is our first time hearing this tonight too. And then after we hear his message tonight, we're going to set a budget agenda, and we'll start going through all the different departments all the different outside agencies, and we'll start detailing through those in further discussion. Some of them will breeze right through, some of them are gonna take a lot of work and a lot of discussion, I feel pretty confident about. But we're looking forward to receiving that. If anybody else would like to address the board, if not, we'll turn to the county manager, please, to see what he's coming up with.
Good luck.
So don't say they can kill you, but they can't eat you. Thank you, board, and I'd like to thank all the county employees and department heads that are here tonight, members of the school system, members of the town, members of our fire departments, and interested citizens. We're all in this together in public service in Macon County, and it's just great to see the amount of support that has came out tonight, and those of you who are here that have either came by desire or being forced into listening to this just because you're later on the agenda. But nonetheless, we appreciate everybody that's came. And as the chairman alluded to, I've spent a lot of time on this, but a lot of people have spent a lot of time on this. We had, I'd like to thank especially Lori Hall and Lindsay that is here tonight with us, going through this budget line by line and making sure that we present to you tonight a budget that holds true to what the mission of this organization is. And the mission of this organization is to provide our citizens with the highest level of public service at the best price possible. In all my years doing this as county manager, that seems to be the theme that resonates. And it is a great feeling to be a part of an organization where you've got department heads and you've got employees that have bought into that program. And they're willing to make sacrifices to make it happen. So I can't thank everybody enough that's here from Macon County tonight for your assistance and the support that you've given during this budget process. And one that is not here tonight, I'd like to thank is Pam Ledford. For about the last 2 weeks, I've been MIA, working on this budget in my office. Pam's had to, field phone calls and really picking up my slack, so to speak, there while we focus 100% of our effort on this budget. The fiscal year 19-20 budget that we'll be discussing here tonight is at $52.8 million. It's about a 3.5% increase, or $1.8 million increase over prior year expenditures. And when you look back at previous budgets, here we go all the way back to the fiscal year 16. Fiscal year 16 to 17, we had a $1 million increase, as you can see here. Moving on from FY17 into FY18, had about a $1.9 million increase. And then from 18 to 19, there was a $1.4 million increase. So when you put that $1.8 million increase in 2020, that'll give you an average over this time period of about $1.2 million. So at this level of expenditures, we're able to maintain our current service level throughout the budget. And through prioritization and gained efficiencies, when we were reviewing this budget with each of the department heads, we have attempted to minimize what I will show you tonight, the impact of the increased costs that this organization, along with every organization in North Carolina and across the country, is experiencing with respect to benefit increases. So we attempted to minimize that as best we could as we were discussing this budget. And how would we do that? Well, when you look at non-salary and benefit related operating expenses within our operating budget, that's going to account for about $7.8 million across each function, or it did account for $7.8 million in FY 18-19. In light of these benefit costs that we knew were coming down the pipeline, we wanted to make as much room in that operating budget to absorb those as possible, thereby having the least impact on this budget. So in doing that, we took that $7.8 million in non-salary and benefit related operating costs. You're talking about things like computer supplies. You're talking about things like gasoline. You're talking about things like supplies, custodial supplies. We were able to go in there through this prioritization and through efficiencies we've picked up, which to mention one is listed in the highlights of your budget section. We have calculated the savings that we have received as a result of upgrading to a voice over IP phone system countywide. It was calculated this year at $116,000 that we've saved after a year of runtime on this new phone system. So things like that enabled us to go in here and try to make room for these increases that we knew were coming, thereby, again, minimizing the impact on the budget. Another thing this allowed us to do is it allowed us to direct any new revenue that was coming into the budget, as Commissioner Taylor alluded to the priorities that had been set for this organization by the board prior to moving in to this budget process. At a projected $22.6 million, our fund balance in the general fund is going to continue to provide us with a high degree of financial security. And this isn't just frothy talk. We saw this play out in practice. If you'll go back to 2008, when the recession hit, Macon County kept right on trucking. Other counties were having to lay off and furlough employees. Macon County was building schools. And that goes back and is directly attributable to this fund balance position that we have tried to maintain throughout the years. As we plan for capital projects moving forward, each of you recall we're right now at the end of the space needs analysis process, which the group has came in, evaluated all of our facilities, and looked at how these facilities currently do or do not meet the uses that they are intended for. They're looking at them from the ground up, including all the operating systems, and are going to basically prioritize that $150 million worth of capital projects that were identified in our capital improvement plan. And again, that $150 million includes requests from not only county departments, but the school system, Southwestern Community College, and basically all the organizations that we're tied to. It lays out those capital projects. So as we move ahead and complete this phase of the space needs analysis, we're getting, if you will, to where the rubber's going to meet the road. And this $22.6 million is going to give us the ability not only to complete these projects, but ensure that these projects have a minimal impact on our operating budget. Now, what do I mean by that? Back when we were building Parker Meadows and we were going out to market to get rates, rates have increased slightly since then, but at this time, there was a neighboring county that had a similar $3.5, $5 million project range that was going out to issue debt similar to what we were doing. And you're talking about they were getting 1.5% to 2% above the price, the quotes that we were getting for rates on principal and interest. And what does that equate to on a $3 and $5 million project? Well, that equates to getting the project done or not. Because today, I'm out there about 4 times a week in Parker Meadows watching ball games. And that facility sits there today, and the facility in the neighboring county I'm discussing didn't get built. So that's the difference, and that's what you're talking about when you talk about fund balance and the ability that it has to really impact what's going on in your operating budget.
Sorry to interrupt your train of thought. Can you enlarge that at all?
Sure. It's also on page, Mr. Chairman, it's on page 13 of your budget book. I'm not sure that I can enlarge it on this screen, but what it does show is that fund balance for appropriation in the coming fiscal year is going to end fiscal year 18-19. We are right now projecting a decrease in fund balance of $2.2 million, and it again brings us to that $26 million level that I just alluded to. That increase is factored into that. Now, or that decrease, excuse me, is factored into that. What this decrease includes is a one-time $1 million to appropriation to the Health Insurance Reserve Fund. Again, we're going to talk in a minute about health insurance costs, but that is an appropriation to not to start bankrolling money in that fund. That is appropriation to keep that fund solvent. as we move forward and continue to be self-funded. That is a requirement. You gotta have some money in there to end the fiscal year. Also included in that $2.2 million decrease, we had $300,000 that we appropriated to go towards the space needs analysis, which I just mentioned is nearing completion. $750,000 of this decrease is attributable to increased operating expenditures to the school system, and $500,000 being for operations, and $250,000 additional being for recurring capital outlay. It is a primary goal, and I will allude to again, was a primary goal of this budget in light of the circumstances and in light of the impact that fund balance is going to have on us moving forward, to preserve this fund balance and make sure that it was there to work as we need it to work as we get into this capital project development phase. In fiscal year 1920, we are recommending to appropriate $250,000 from fund balance to go towards connectivity to our newly renovated 800 megahertz Viper telecommunication system. What this will enable us to do is it will enable us right now to purchase handheld units, the subscriber units that are compatible with this upgraded telecommunications infrastructure for members at each of our 11 volunteer fire departments. The volunteer fire departments, as we all know, they play such a crucial role in our 11 fire departments across this county, play such a crucial role, and in times, God forbid, of emergency, whenever you got law enforcement, whenever you got state troopers in, whenever you got EMS in, right now, all of them are going to be communicating together, but the fire departments have still not received those subscriber units. And those fire departments are many times the first ones there. They're going to be key to, their need for communication is key moving forward when we're talking about emergency situations when you're talking about life and death instances. Our debt service, we're going to see a slight increase coming up in 2019. It's going to increase by about $50,000, and that is due to the issuance of $2.9 million worth of debt for the South Macon School project. When you look at the trend since 2011, we've been able to reduce our debt by about 52%. And continuing here into 2034, as you really can't see on the projector, but you can find it in your budget book, we're going to continue to reduce that debt load. Again, however, though, for this fiscal year, we are going to see a slight uptick, about $50,000 in those P&I payments on that debt. Like fund balance, debt is a strong contributor, or is a direct contributor to our strong financial position. This debt capacity that we've been able to generate since 2011 by paying off 54% of our debt is going to be crucial in allowing us to take on new debt that this space needs analysis and any capital projects we decide to move forward with could potentially render. I mentioned earlier about providing these services, all these services at the best price possible. And that is a key, like I said, I think that is key and speaks to the mission of this organization. The recommended ad valorem tax rate at 36.94 cents per $100 of assessed value. When you look across our 7-county western region, this is not just good, it's real good. It's a dime less than the average you see in these 7 counties that we adjoin. When you take that onto a state average at 67.3 cents on $100 of assessed property value, our rate right now is close to 50 cents less than the average tax rate in the state of North Carolina. So these high quality services that I talk about providing and that we will continue to provide in fiscal year 1920, we're able to provide these as good as anybody and for as good a price as anybody in the state of North Carolina. So, looking at our revenues or what has went in, what is going into this budget, just to go back, the theme of this presentation, we'll discuss the revenues here first on top. You see that going into the budget, and then the expenditures are what's coming out. That's how this presentation is going to flow. So moving into the revenues, you see here that tax collections and sales tax at 57% and 16% respectively make up the primary revenue sources in the general fund. The ad valorem tax rate, which I mentioned earlier, at 36.94 cents on $100 of assessed value, is going to generate $1.4 million in additional revenue moving into fiscal year 1920. As we all know, 2019 was a revaluation year for Macon County. This revaluation entailed 44,000 parcels of real property. If you'll recall, back in February of 2019, our tax administrator of 35 years, Richard Leitner, came in and provided us with a presentation. At this presentation, he indicated that we wouldn't experience much growth in the ad valorem tax base from 2015, which was when the last revaluation occurred. When we got the results of the revaluation, it turns out he was right. The ad valorem tax base in Macon County in 2015 was about $7.95 billion. In 2019, that amount increased, when you're talking about billions, minimally, in increasing to $8.04 billion. So we had a minimal increase there when you look at that revalued property level. Another thing that is called for in a revaluation is the rate that is considered to be the revenue neutral tax rate, or that rate which would produce a levy equal to the amount in the year preceding the revaluation. Had a revaluation not occurred, it allows you to apply a growth rate onto that rate. So from 2015 to 2019, the tax base in Macon County grew on average 0.82%. So at that revenue neutral level, and applying that growth rate, you're going to get that 35.6 cents on $100 per assessed value. Now, at the revenue neutral level with the growth rate applied, our tax collections revenue would have generated approximately $400,600 in new revenue. Our tax office, in conducting this revaluation, they do a great job each and every year by doing this in-house. It's estimated that this saves us about $1.5 million per revaluation, having the tax office in-house this service for us as opposed to going out to contract for it. You will notice, again, about $1,050,000 increase in revenue that is generated by this 1 3/100ths recommendation to above revenue neutral. So the 36.9 cents on $100 per assessed value is, again, it is right at 1 1/3 over the revenue neutral level. With respect to sales tax, we estimated to end fiscal year 19 at 4.5% above the original budget amount. We put another 3% on top of that as we move into the next fiscal year. Looking at our forecasted calculations and applying that 3% on top of that, the sales tax is going to generate about another $429,000 in revenue growth here in fiscal year 1920. Service fees slightly up. Saw new revenue come into the service fees through changes to the Medicaid allowable amounts for ambulance transport, things like that. Adjusting those rates has led to an increase in service fees of about $124,000 moving into fiscal year 19. Here you got a $298,000 increase in intergovernmental revenue, but as you will recall, this revenue generated from intergovernmental is offset by expenditures, corresponding expenditures primarily in DSS and health. This $298,000 is basically pass-through money that goes to expenditures, offsetting expenditures in those agencies. Miscellaneous revenue grew $300,000, and that is because increased rates on investments from the Federal Reserve. We got about $290,000 of that 300 from the increased rates from the Federal Reserve on our investments. So in total, that generates an additional $2.6 million of revenue for the operating budget heading into the current fiscal year. When we look at expenditures or what's coming out of this budget, the first thing that I'll draw your attention to is here, the priority areas. Here in public safety, it accounts for about $15.4 million or 29% of this budget. That is a priority area within this budget, as we had the courthouse security project, which we'll discuss briefly here in a second. Also, over here at 19% is public education, which is another priority area, as indicated in fiscal year 18-19 through the increased funding provided to the school system following the recommended budget. When you look at human services here, it's $12.7 million. Only $4.4 million of this is accounted for by local funds, and we'll discuss that here in a minute. So, but I just wanted to give you a look at those expenditures to let you know that the priorities remain in those areas. When you look at employee benefit costs, right out of the gate, we had a $471,930 increase to health insurance premiums. And this amount is representative of about a 10.9% increase in our health insurance premiums. Now, this originally started out at 11.8%, but the Health Insurance Committee, following evaluation of each proposal, we recommended to change some things. We changed the first-time ER visit copay from $100 to $300, and we also received more favorable rates from the stop-loss carrier than originally anticipated. So that 11.8 increase that we were originally slated for, we got that down to 10.9. We will be changing health insurance providers this year. We will remain self-funded, but we're going to try something different. We're going with the North Carolina Health Insurance Risk Pool. This pool, which is put on by Gallagher, right now it's in its infancy still, just started in 17-18, but after their first year, they already have over 6,000 members. So what we're doing here is we're taking our covered lives of 600 and we're putting those with a pool of 6,000. So in doing that, we hope this economy of scale, that this buying power brought about from being a part of this larger pool is going to be reflected in our renewals next year. And when you look, they have 27 insurance pools across the country, and each one of them are functioning well. They're well below the national and state averages in terms of average annual increase. So we're very confident that moving to this pool environment with our health insurance is going to be positive for us. We'll remain to be self-funded. We'll continue to be self-funded, but we will be able to share our exposure with 6,000 others, thereby minimizing our cost. 72,000 of this 471.9 was slated to, based on our current funding formulas, on how we fund dependent coverage, was to be passed down to those with dependents. If you'll recall though, last year, those with dependent coverage saw increases as high as 35-45% from prior year. So in realization of that, and in trying to minimize the impact on the employees that came from the health insurance last year, which we were able to give a cost of living, but in some cases the increases were so substantial, it would serve to offset that. So by doing this, it is another token of appreciation for our employees and the value that this organization places on what they do and this health insurance benefit. Had a change from the state retirement system, change in contribution rates. That equated to $251 million, right at $252 million increase to the overall operating budget. 251,000, did I say million? Which is high rate,
I'm about passed out.
200, so you're looking at about 251,800, right at 252,000. That is new cost to the operating budget from retirement contribution increases. Last but not least, while it is below the recommendation from the Social Security Administration of 2.8%, we were able to recommend a 1.5% cost of living adjustment for county employees at $313,862. So, right out of the gate, with employee benefit costs, that was $1,037,000 total in increases to employment benefit costs that were incurred in fiscal year 1920. Moving into your public safety function. Again, this was an area of priority with the courthouse security project. We also had a few areas within the public safety function that needed additional personnel and needed some things to maintain their current level of service. First, if you look here, how each of these lines are laid out, your operating cost increases are going to be in blue, and these again are those increases which I feel had the largest impact and were attributable to the increase or decrease within each function. In other words, if it's on here, it's in this budget, it wasn't in last budget. And it's either indicated to be an operating cost in blue or capital cost in red. So here you see the impact across this function of this $1.5 million increase of the health insurance, retirement, and COLA that we gave. These salary amounts here, beginning with emergency management, we talk about, you hear a lot about the elevated call levels that we've been experiencing, 35,000 in the amount of calls. And one thing that we remember is that one office touches every single one of them, and that's dispatch. All these calls coming in are filtered through dispatch, and they're filtered out to the agencies. There are 2 positions recommended to go into the dispatch office. Since 1994, this will make 4 positions that we've added to the dispatch office. And you can only imagine the amount of calls today compared to the amount of calls we were receiving in 1994. But what we're doing here is these new positions will increase staffing levels during these peak times of 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. or 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. and 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. They'll increase them from 2 to 3 during the 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. and it will increase from 3 to 4 staff during 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. When you look at the CAD reports, what this is doing is during these peak times, we're really seeing an impact that these dispatchers are able to stay on the line with the folks that are calling in and get these directions and get this information that is so pertinent to giving these guys and gals on the back end the information they need to go into these situations. So, being able to have that increase in time on the line with those callers is going to be an extreme benefit and help us handle this increased call load. What we saw here, in terms of an efficiency and effectiveness measure, consistently on these CAD reports, the time to answer statistics are falling under 10 seconds, and they're falling out of the 10-second threshold that has been established. We want to answer 95% of those calls within 10 seconds. And right now, with this increased call volume during these peak times, it continues to take away from our ability to do that. So we hope to address that with these 2 positions. The operating cost in blue here again is the salaries only. The health insurance, retirement, and COLA have been factored into the benefits of the overall function in blue. Just to try to give you a true picture there. EMS, 1 paramedic position will be added. What we have saw in EMS, of course, still the call levels remain elevated. We are seeing more calls shift from the Nantahala Highlands area into the Franklin area. Combined with that, we're having a greater number of transports that we're having to take out of county as compared to the year before. And in doing that, it's creating a situation where we're having to use a lot of part-time to help fill this shift. So in adding this EMS position, we'll be able to add a 24/72 hour shift in Franklin. We'll be able to complete that shift and allow to free up that part-time, which helps with our community paramedic program, which again, the service provided by the community paramedic program has increased substantially from 17 to 18 to 18, 19. Also, highlighted here in red, will be as budgeted for a new ambulance. And right now, our ambulance fleet is average age of 9 years old and average mileage of 122,000 miles. The $296,000 number is representative of a new ambulance that can be added to this fleet to help lower that average age and reduce that mileage. These are the vehicles that reliability matters most. And so we wanted to focus that funding here to allow EMS to continue to maintain that current high service level. Also budgeted, again, I told you this is the increases only. We do have a remount budgeted as well for the coming fiscal year. So we really expect to be able to make a dent in that ambulance fleet. Again, this 296 is totally attributable to the new ambulance, as the remount was in last year's budget and this year's budget. Telecommunication connectivity, we hit that, but $200,000 was in last year's budget to finish buying the subscriber units for our personnel here, EMS, Sheriff's Office. So that $250,000 that we have budgeted in fiscal year 1920 is only representative of a $50,000 increase over the prior year. Moving into the Sheriff's Office, we had the equipment warranty. We purchased about $82,000 worth of security equipment to be placed at the second and third floor entrances following recommendations of the Courthouse Security Committee, which the sheriff's here tonight. He and Judge Coward headed up that committee, and they went to great lengths to be sure that not only were we getting what we wanted public safety-wise out of it and accomplishing that mission, but we wanted to make it as easy and convenient on those employees in the courthouse as possible. The purchase of the equipment, again, has allowed us to set up those entrances on the second and third floor, and the $217,065 addition there to courthouse security is salaries only. That is reflective of the salaries for 4 new officers in fiscal year 1920, and it is also representative of picking up the other half a year for the 2 officers that were budgeted at a half a year in fiscal year 18-19. Again, that's salaries only. The benefits will be accounted for up there in the top. We were able to purchase, in addition to those vehicles that were purchased last year, we're going to be able to purchase a detention center vehicle this year. In addition, as well as an in-car camera project. If you'll recall, we received $65,000 from the Office of State Budget Management with the assistance of Representative Kevin Corbin, was able to secure us that $65,000 in funding, which we can place towards accomplishing this project. What this is going to do is put an in-car camera in 54 vehicles, sheriff's vehicles on the road. That will be recognized as a complete project once that is done, and it will give all of our officers out there that are working hard for us every day, it will give them protection as well as the people that they're taking into custody. So really feel like we got some good projects going on in public service, or in public safety, that's really going to allow us to enhance that service level, both in operations and capital. You can see here with operations accounting for right at 800 and capital right at 600, puts you about at 1.4 of that total increase above fiscal year 18-19 levels. Moving into general government, you're going to see a $500,000 decrease from FY 18-19 within this general government function. Again, that is with a capital cost increase of $192,000. not only were we able to, as I talked about earlier, of course, the majority of your decline here is related to capital. And you can really see it when you look at these budgets. And again, that's small. But the two, budgets that I'll focus on here as reduced capital is the information technology budget, which you'll notice a $384,000 reduction here in that budget as our backup and archival system, network and router refresh projects, those big capital projects. I think we had about $500,000 in capital budgeted for FY 18-19, and the majority of that is rolling off. Again, just want to take a second to commend this department and let you know why there is such a big fluctuation in capital in the IT department. Our IT department manages a wide area network that encompasses 19 sites. It's connected by 56 switches. Each of these switches got 2 power supplies and 2 USPs per switch. IT is responsible for managing over 2,000, or for ensuring that maintenance and upkeep on over 2,000 devices. And this is devices and programs that span from our computers to our GIS software system, to our tax software, to our human resources and financial software systems, to our access control systems, to our security systems, to our telephones. Right now they have 8 positions total. There's 2 vacant positions that we're attempting to fill. So IT does a great job here in maximizing efficiency within this organization. But again, when you have a department that is responsible for overseeing this much of our infrastructure, you're going to have these big fluctuations from year to year in your capital. So you got about a $384,000 decrease in IT. Building and grounds, you'll notice another decrease. $185,000 was budgeted for the LED light replacement project in this current fiscal year. We have received the materials. We're beginning the install on all county facilities, replacing with LED lights. At the completion of this project, we anticipate that savings within the project scope will be as much as 50%. And that goes again to gaining these efficiencies within our operating budget. And another, again, you're going to have this department is heavy laden capital some years too, because again, the scope of what it oversees. When you're talking about the maintenance department, we've got 266,000 square feet of county buildings. They're valued at $28.1 million. They sit on 369.6 acres. And while we are not there at every one of these buildings, on every one of these acres on a daily basis, I guarantee you can go to anybody right now in the maintenance department and building and grounds department, and they can tell you about every square inch of this 266,000 square feet. Again, big scope of the department, so you're going to have those fluctuations. Looking here across the rest of the budget, though, you'll see that general government expenditures, again, we're still in the general government function. These expenditures are at a flat, if not decreased level from fiscal year 18-19. Again, we did everything we could do to try to absorb as many of these costs coming down the pipe as we could. Moving into transportation, I want to take a second here. The chairman mentioned unfunded mandates and things of that nature. When you look at some of these departments, things like Medicaid transformation, the impact that it's going to have, it goes all the way to these departments such as transit, and the way that they're currently getting reimbursed from our Department of Social Services for the trips. This budget that we're in right now is reflective of reduced revenue due to these changes associated with Medicaid transformation in anticipation of those. But I say that to say that when you talk about gained efficiency, when you talk about going outside, thinking outside of the box, trying to pursue other funding sources to make up for lost revenue, since fiscal year 17, all transit vehicles have been upfitted with an alternative fuel propane option. from 2017 to the current fiscal year, when you look at the savings that we have achieved in propane over gas, it's about $53,000. And furthermore, the advertising program, which was approved this fiscal year, we received $23,000 in revenue from that advertising program that Transit implemented in fiscal year 18-19. So moving forward, as Transit has received these reductions in revenue from those sources that they used to rely on, they have made up for it through these things such as this, through trying to think outside of the box and get additional revenue from sources that we didn't previously get. And they've done an excellent job. Just wanted to touch on that. Transportation function, it includes transit and airport. It's going to decrease by $129,000 from the current fiscal year. This is due to capital. In 18-19, we purchased 3 new lift-equipped vans. While it's only a 10% county match, the entire $210,000 has to be reflected as an expenditure. In fiscal year 19-20, we're purchasing 1 van. And while it is a 10% county match again, the $80,000 total expenditure has to be reflected. So when you look at this, this operating decrease in capital largely offsets the $26,600 increase in operating, again, leading you to that net decrease in the transportation function for 19-20. Economic and fiscal development. Here, the operating expenditures are a result of the career ladder structure for county extension agents, which was implemented in April of 2019 by the Cooperative Extension Office. This career ladder structure attempts to address compression within the state pay plan. We received a letter in April informing us that the Cooperative Extension Office would be picking up the career ladder structure increases through the remainder of the fiscal year, but that we were expecting as a county to pick them up moving forward. So we provide about 42% of the Cooperative Extension total salary. The rest comes from North Carolina State University. So this is representative of that career ladder structure implementation in the Cooperative Extension Office. And again, that is statewide, and we pay for approximately 42%. Capital spending here will increase by $34,000. This is for a new Cooperative Extension van to be used for 4-H. They're constantly, the current van they have is 131,000 miles on it. It's 14 years old. It's riddled with maintenance issues time after time. It can't stay out of the shop. And in the summer, they're using this multiple times per week. So we've developed Transit in the garage, developed a vehicle ranking system that we have put all of our vehicles into and assigned point values for things such as mileage, age, type of use. And we were able during this budget process to put this information in and have it spit out those vehicles that were priority for replacement. So that was a very nice tool to have during this budget process. It just brings it to the fact that this van was off the chart in terms of qualifying for replacement. So that $52,000 increase there again, with the operating capital increases that I just discussed, that's where that comes from. Human Services, $789,000 increase over the current fiscal year budget that we're in. Only $138,000 of this, however, is attributable to county funding. As I mentioned earlier, we only fund about $4 million of that $12 million overall expenditure to Health and Human Services. So at this level and at this level of expenditures in the health department, we have discussed many times on the health board, we're having a problem retaining dentists, we're having a problem recruiting dentists. The health department wanted to see to it that these problems were resolved in recruitment and retention. They brought forth salary levels which were suggested as regionally competitive, and when we evaluated and found they were regionally competitive, So that has been included. That was an increase of approximately 29,225, and that's 29,225. But overall, you can see here that that's only a small portion of that salary and benefit increase, which was largely from health insurance, retirement, and COLA. So with that adjustment and the increases from the benefits, combined with replacement of equipment in our child dental clinic at $56,000, we're replacing the vacuum system and some Schick sensors, which are for cleaning teeth, and the vacuum system, which is an integral part of their operation. We're going to be replacing that equipment. So you saw about a $56,000 increase in capital in that Health and Human Services function. Moving on to DSS, down here, we had 2 part-time positions in senior services have been dissolved, and 1 position has been created to man the front desk at senior services. Primary objective here, they have a new kiosk that basically tracks the data for everybody that's coming into the Senior Services Center and utilizing our services. It gives us information on who's coming in, what services they're utilizing, and it helps DSS and those at Senior Services know where to target their funding, know how to track services. But this kiosk, it requires some training and it requires some attention. And we were finding, with the part-time folks there, it's hard to get that training and to be able to invest in that training as part-time. So by putting a full-time position here, we hope to increase the efficiency of senior services by being able to fully use that new technology in that kiosk system as senior services. So that, along with salary and benefit, your 2 positions, as you'll recall, in child welfare that DSS came, I think it was in January or February, came before the board. We're still the NCFAS system, which has been attempted to be put in place, has created some organizational and workload nightmares. I think it's to put 1 case in. I think Patrick told me that told us that night that it takes 23 steps to do what they used to do in the morning. So this has resulted in these caseworkers in child welfare having less time, spending more time behind the desk with this system and less time in the field helping those recipients of the service. That, combined with the increasing number of children that we're seeing come into custody of the Department of Social Services, this board approved those 2 positions. This number here reflects $55,000 of that is attributable to DSS, those 2 new employees coming on for that full year. So overall, county funding increase to DSS and Human Services of $364,000. And here, you're primarily talking about operations, you're talking about DSS, dissolve that position, and those 2 social services workers, plus this 226 includes their share of the cost of living adjustment and retirement increase listed here. So with that, we'll move into recreation cultural. Here, again, maintain that service level, finding efficiencies, minimizing the impact of forthcoming increases. Recreation had an operating increase of $17,900 to the health insurance, retirement, and COLA line items. But you'll notice here, the increase for the entire department the entire function for fiscal year 1920 is $5,763. So that speaks to right there what we try to accomplish in each function heading into 1920. In education, we are, as you can see here, is recommending that operating remains at 18-19 levels, with the exception of SEC. We've added $23,058 here to go towards the repair and repaving of the parking lot at the public safety training facility. In terms of getting back for a second here to education in the Macon County school system, this level of appropriation, I feel, is not only competitive across the 7-county region, but I feel like it's competitive across the western part of the state. When you look at figures produced by the state superintendent's office, this is on page, you don't need to see it. This is on page 30. These figures were published in 2019 by the state superintendent's office, dealing with, and of these figures are your percent local funded per ADM and the average teacher salary. When you look at Macon County here compared to our 7-county western region, in percent local funded per ADM, again, according to the figures published by the state superintendent's office, Macon County is 2.5% above the regional average of 20.7%. And again, this is in 17-18. These numbers are from 17-18 prior to the additions that were made in 18-19. So in 17-18, when it's indicated here that we're 2.5% above that regional average of 20.7%, that was with funding for operations at $7.13 million, capital and technology at a combined $900,000. So moving into 19-20 budget and 18-19 budget, after these figures, we have increased the funding amount for operations by $500,000 to $7.86 million. We've increased the funding for capital outlay and technology from $900,000 in fiscal year 17-18 to $1.15 million in fiscal year 18-19 and carrying forward into 19-20. So as we move forward from fiscal year 17-18, I feel like this 15% increase in funding that we're talking about is going to allow us to continue in terms of percent funded locally per ADM, continue to ensure that we're a leader in not only our 7-county region, but across the western region in general. I say that because when you go down and you expand that 7-county average out of that southwestern region A, you look at Rutherford, Polk, Transylvania, Henderson, Avery, Mitchell, Madison, Yancey, Buncombe, McDowell, Burke, Watauga, Ashe, Allegheny, Wilkes, Caldwell, Cleveland. You take the average of all those, and we're still at 1.8% above the average funding level percent local funded per ADM when considering all those counties, according to that information. Each of these, however, are still slightly below the state average. When you talk about teacher pay, at $51,700 teacher pay in our 7-county region, according to this information, it's $1,460 over the average. When you look at the 17-county average, which includes the counties that I just listed here, 17 of them, we're $112 over the average. When you bring in all 24 that I just named off, we start to fall under the average by about $98, but our percent local funded per ADM remains at 1.8% above the average for those 24 counties. Again, when you look at it compared to a state level, 23.2% local funded per ADM, Macon County's 1.1% below that state average, and we're about $2,200 in teacher pay. Teacher pay is the state. So the percent local funded is what I would focus on. And, while it is below the state, I think we've made in 17-18, I think the enhancements we've made is going to put us not only on par with the West and the far West, not only above average for those, but it's going to put us up there with those state averages. We'll just have to wait and see how many new figures we produce. In addition to that, moving into fiscal year 19-20, I also want to highlight that reviewing this budget, it appears that, in reviewing the State of Representatives, State House of Representatives proposed budget, it appears like the salary, any substantial impacts that would result from salary increases are going to be directed toward those longer serving teachers, which should not be included on the local rolls. Secondly, the House of Representatives is proposing an increase in funding for school supplies in the coming fiscal year. These plans, plus when you look back at last fiscal year, the K-12 small schools appropriation that was received, things like that. The environment's changing and the climate's changing. I believe strongly that we're doing it as good as anybody. So, in addition, I do want to mention, go back, $150,000. We have received a community health grant in the amount of $150,000. This is a partnership between our local health department and our school system, Western Carolina University. And what this is going to do, this one-time grant funding is going to allow us to start a school-based health clinic, which is going to provide resources for our children in the school system, including access to mental health professionals. So that's a giant leap and addresses a major area of concern that was brought before us from the school system in the current fiscal year. So in summary, with this slide, I'm going to attempt to illustrate to you why the increase above revenue neutral has been recommended. The column on the right here illustrates the total revenue when using the revenue neutral tax rate that would have been generated. Here, if you go back to one of the first slides we've seen, I know there's been a lot of water under the bridge since then, but rather than that 1.4 million, you remember I said at revenue neutral, about $1,050,000 less, or revenue neutral would generate $400,669 in revenue. So that has been, the recommended tax rate has been replaced with the revenue neutral rate for purposes of this illustration. The column on the left summarizes the increases and decreases that we've just summarized within each function of the general government budget. And I will zoom in to those you can see here. You'll notice that here I've subtracted $300,000 from that 1.8 million, and that is because that 300,000 of this $330,000 increase in education was appropriated in fiscal year 18-19 from the Consolidated Capital Projects Fund. That Consolidated Capital Projects Fund moving forward is not a sustainable source of revenue. It has a finite amount in it. It does not have enough money in it to render another appropriation in the current fiscal year. And assuming that it is again, as Chairman Tate alluded to, the priorities, it's a priority of this board to enhance funding for school technology in fiscal year 18-19. And so we appropriated it in fiscal year 18-19 out of that fund. Now moving forward, and under the assumption that the board wants to continue at that increased funding level, we need that supported by recurring revenue. So we backed it out here. And going back to our fund balance discussion, how important it was about not only for times of uncertainty, but for moving forward with these capital projects as we near the end of completion of this planning phase. $750,000 of that appropriation was from fund balance, which again, we want to try to, and it was a goal of this budget to try to preserve that moving forward. So what we're going to do here is you're going to see the $300,000 that was deducted down here in purple. And you're gonna add $750,000 to that, because you will notice that $750,000 is not reflected in the increase to education. However, the FY 18-19 original budget included the $500,000 increase for operations and the $200,000 increase for annual capital outlay. So that's included in our fiscal year 18-19 budget. But moving forward, we want to be sure that that is supported with recurring revenue. Again, to those tenants that we described about the fund balance, to try to uphold that, we want to be sure that's supported with recurring revenue moving forward. So before we go any further on the purple numbers here, let's look at this 1505 number on the left. So at revenue neutral, at this revenue neutral amount generated of revenue, you have 1.505 million in expenditures. And again, that is with that deduction. Then you have 1.5 million in revenue. So let's look at what we were able to accomplish at the revenue level, at the revenue neutral level for fiscal year 19-20. What we were able to accomplish, we absorbed the health insurance cost. We were able to absorb health insurance cost increases, retirement increases, cost of living adjustment, which I told you on the first slide, or in that slide, about $1,037,000 right there. Plus, you had 9 new positions in public safety with 2 dispatchers and an EMT. Plus, you had the positions at the courthouse security, 4 officers for a full year, and then picking up the full year on those other 2 officers. So that's 9 positions in public safety we were able to absorb at the revenue neutral level. 3 new positions in DSS, and that with the absorption of those 2 part-time employees and the 2 additional social services workers. We were able to increase capital spending in public safety, which we've discussed, the projects that are going to have a tremendous impact on the effectiveness of the service that we can provide to the citizens and visitors of Macon County. An increase of $611,000 there. And when you add it up, it's close to $2 million of expenditures that we've just cut, or that we've just discussed. But through these gain deficiencies, through certain expenditures rolling off, it wasn't all because of gain deficiencies. Some expenditures rolled off. But like I said, that non-employee benefit related operating costs, we went ahead and made an attempt to get those down there so we could absorb as much of this as possible. And so with all that being said, we were able to squeeze all this in at that revenue neutral rate. But what we could not squeeze in, but what is felt to be a priority of this board, that was illustrated by this board, you have, let's go back to the purple numbers now. You have the schools recurring here on the left. We've moved it over. The reason we took this $1,050,000 out, remember, is because each time it was from a non-recurring revenue source. So in supporting that $1,050,000 as recurring revenue, you can see here that gets you to $2.6 million. And again, these numbers have been rounded, but that's right at your, that's all over that right there. That $2.6 million that is generated in total revenue by increasing the revenue neutral tax rate by 1 1/3 pennies, or $1,052,649. So, with that being said, I realize that we can't get into much detail here, but I just wanted to provide you with an overview of these increases and decreases and highlight some of the guiding principles and some of the things that formulated our thought process during this budget. Again, I'm just the spokesman. This budget is representative of these department heads and these county employees, and it's an honor to come to work every day with each and every one of them. I'm proud to work alongside of them, and I feel like that what we've proposed here in fiscal year 19-20, Chairman Tate upholds the direction that you indicated at our January meeting of showing us a budget that gives us what we need to get the job done. And I'd like to thank this board and each and every person again for your consideration here, man.
Eric, I think I missed something. You repeat that?
Watch the archive video.
Just a quick question for clarification. I presume that your budget proposal will be available online for.
Yes.
I'm seeing there'll also be copies at the local libraries. So the two locations online and libraries.
Atlanta, Hala, Highlands, here, Franklin, we put it online.
Anywhere else, just
Have
those?
it, switchboard here.
Okay. Okay.
Last year, you emailed us your presentation.
Yep. So a breakdown of each of the department's budgets, down to the penny will be available again, copies of the proposed budget will be available in our local libraries, also be available online for everybody to review. As you can obviously tell, this board, we have a whole lot to swallow. Our heads are spinning right now, thinking and looking about us, and there's hundreds of questions already popping in my mind. But again, I'd like to thank Derek, Lori, and y'all staff for putting this together. I know how much time and effort. And I guess it's probably the most important thing that we do as a board every year, is setting this budget. So, it's definitely a balancing act. We have to weigh the needs, extrapolate the wants and opinions, and try and come to consensus, this board, on passing the budget. So with that being said, I think that's all I've got to say about the budget. I've got, again, my head's spinning. I've got a whole lot to think about and consider. If you have any questions for Derek? If not, we'll move on. We still have a lot to go through tonight. Good job. Yeah, good job. Thank you. All right, next item on the agenda is scheduling the budget work sessions. I know we're going to have one work session with the
At least over 100.
Angie? Dr. Baldwin was here. Dr. Baldwin gone? Okay. Angie, will you grab him? Read us too. All right, as far as work session goes, I've got one to request personally, and that's we have two fire departments asking for a tax increase. That would be Scaly and Highlands. I think we can do it at the same time. It probably will take about probably 15 to 20 minutes total. But I think we can meet with both those departments and get their reasoning for the tax increase, and decide if it's in the county's best interest. One will be fire department. I know one will probably be education. Is there any others from this board? Any other requests from departments? We have public safety was a huge increase. Everything good through the sheriff or Warren. I sat in dispatch the other day, so I know there's dispatch. Holy cow. I think we're gonna set a work session with you and your board. You want to do that with email? I guess, Derek, would you like to align that, or you want to go ahead and set it tonight?
Probably best if we do it by email, so I can have board members together.
Let's just throw out some potential dates real quick, so we'll know tonight how to adjourn. Recess, excuse me, thank you. How about next Tuesday, 21st? Does that work on our calendars? We're trying to line up education or fire departments, or both?
Do both of them.
Well, we're gonna recess till next Tuesday at 6 p.m. Dr. Baldwin?
That, my calendar's open, other than softball regionals, but I'll check the rest of the board.
Okay. We'll plan on meeting with, hopefully all y'all, if it works out, if not, we'll reschedule. Yeah.
You'll do the fire departments with Trevor.
I'm gonna find them both at the same time.
6 p.m.
Anybody else we can set the chief
6 p.m.,
school
5 p.m.?
6 is there.
6 is good. 6 p.m.
I've got the sheriff on that now.
I'm good. I can be there.
In case.
Just in case we have any questions. Thank you. All right. 6 p.m. on May 21st. All right, next thought about presentation regarding broadband, Mayor Patrick Taylor, Town of Highlands. Mayor Taylor.
Thank you for letting me come tonight and make this presentation. I've also asked our town manager, Josh Ward, our financial director, Rebecca Schuler, and also our IT and broadband director, Matt Schuler, to come, and Matt will be giving you an overview of where we are on our broadband development in just a minute. But I wanted to just say that what I'm proposing tonight is, of course, we want to update you where we are on creating a broadband network in Highlands. But also I want to ask or invite you to become a partner with us in this effort of developing broadband, which will not only impact the citizens of Highlands, but everyone who's in the southern part of the county and on the plateau. Let me just go over a couple of things. When I became mayor, one of the priorities I realized very soon is the essential need to create a state-of-the-art broadband network in all of our communities, not just in Macon County, not in Highlands, but throughout this region and throughout the United States. As part of that, we saw an opportunity to create a community broadband. We are part of a group that went to the FCC. It's a long story, but we saw an opportunity to create a broadband network because of the FCC ruling, which was in favor of communities getting into that activity. We created a broadband department, and it's called Altitude Broadband. It's been operating, albeit at a small level, for now a number of years. It serves the folks that live in the town limits of Highlands, but we have not limited that to just Highlands. If we can send a signal out to anyone in the county, we will certainly provide that service for them. And we have people who are living in the county that take part of our Altitude broadband. So I wanted to make that point, that we have been serving not only the people in Highlands who are residents of the county, but also the folks that live outside our city limits. For example, one of our first customers when we set up our broadband was the Mountains at Scaly. So with that, what I would like to do now is to have Matt come up and tell you about where we are now, because we have had to kind of change our model for service, and Matt will give you a quick update. Matt?
Well, Mr. Schuler.
Thank you, Chairman. Hey, Commissioners. What we need for exactly how to operate the presentation machine. You did that. Thank you all for hearing us tonight. I want to give you a short history which Mayor Taylor has already mentioned. The town recognized the broadband about 10 years ago, and we began contracting with Double Radius in 2009, which is a fixed wireless company out of Charlotte, to determine if using wireless technology could get to the citizens of the Highlands. And indeed it could, with some towers placed in various areas. But that was toward the end of 2009, and as we began to try to figure out the finances for that, House Bill 129 came law in May of 2011, which effectively stopped that progress. So we still had a need, and we continue to try to talk to different providers about upgrading broadband, etc. And we weren't very successful, as I think we saw all over the county. There's broadband providers work on density, and when you're in a rural community, you just don't have a great deal of density, so that includes the lack of motivation. And so we get services that just aren't exactly where they need to be. So in early in 2015, as Mayor Taylor mentioned, we did go to the FCC, and Commissioner Wheeler with the FCC brought to the table some broadband changes, and they overturned many of the state laws, including House Bill 129. So at that point, the town was ready, so we began Altitude Community Broadband, which used fixed wireless technology and also some fiber that the town had already placed going to buildings like the water plant, sewer plant, which was around 5 miles of fiber. So not a great deal, but enough to kind of backbone and get started. So in doing that, soon after we formed Altitude Community Broadband, the Sixth Circuit Federal Court overturned the FCC's ruling, which went back to basically blocking towns from being a service provider. So since that time, we've actually been actively working, trying to get out of the business of being a provider. So we sent out an RFI in 2017 to find a provider to take over Altitude Community Broadband, and also to expand the services to what we were requesting for a town. And we talked to a number of different providers who had all kinds of various ideas. Some were great and some just weren't. And we ran across one provider, Wide Open Networks, and they had a completely different way of thinking about broadband, and it met what the town was really looking for, and we also believe it meets what the county was really looking for. It's not a single provider. With a single provider, you really hope that provider does well, and if they don't, then you're stuck with a provider that doesn't do well. Well, Wide Open said, if we did transportation the same way that we do network communications, everyone that came to your house would have to take their own road and have to build their own road. He said, but transportation kind of got it down pat. Everybody uses the same road. So we talked about this for a while, to place a single fiber to every home in Highlands, if a homeowner would have that, and then allow all of the different utilities to connect to that single fiber and to run services to that homeowner, and the homeowner would be allowed to choose which service that they actually wanted. But it would all be over the same fiber. Wide Open would take care of the line maintenance, which that's a major cost in doing telecommunications. So Wide Open takes care of the line maintenance, and the providers don't have to worry about that anymore. So that reduces their cost, which in turn should bring about a savings for each homeowner. And I wanted to show you a map. It's you may be able to make that out. There's a dotted line that's red around the border, and that is the corporate limits of Highlands. And you'll see what we've actually planned goes a little bit outside of the city limits of Highlands, in the fact that we have some areas in Forest Cove where the town of Highlands electric utilities run, and also over into Klein Road and the area we know as the Ponderosa. So we plan for every home in Highlands, but also all the areas that have utilities for the town. But we also own the corridors going toward Scaly Mountain, the county line going towards Cashers, and every road leading out of Highlands, we have designed in additional fibers, because we want those networks to go outside. The more successful that this network is, the more providers that want to get on it, and just make it better for the citizens, and also the finances of Wide Open as well. I wanted to give you just a very small depiction of kind of how this works. If you see the blown up of the fiber, we're gonna be using a technology called D-Lands, which I won't go into tonight because it's really boring and I would be asleep before I got through. But what that allows is for company A, B, C, and so on into the thousands actually, to be able to put all those services on the same fiber. You can also have a provider that does your traditional triple play, like a telephone, television, and forgot who else.
Internet.
Thank you, internet. I got into the television rather than that. But anyway, also, you could put a single provider such as Mission or HCD as a telehealth provider there. You can do a single IPTV provider or multiples. The opportunities are actually virtually just endless. So we can put all of that on one single fiber going to a home. So this is kind of what the town's been working at. I just want to give you a few closing comments. I don't want to be long, just want to give you a little bit about it. The town just finished, we borrowed $4.6 million for this project, and we plan to award the construction for the aerial fiber to JBL Communications. I plan to do that this Thursday at the town board meeting. It's scheduled there. We've got a few clerical things that we need to gather, and as soon as those are finished, we'll award that. Like I said, we plan to do that on Thursday. And finally, if you want to know about how long it's going to last, the construction time is supposed to be about 300 days barring weather. So roughly a one-year project, and we should have fiber to every home in Highlands. So with that, if you have any questions, I'll answer those. I'll turn it back over to Member Taylor.
Mr. Shula, about how many customers? 4.6 million, so.
We're going to pass around 3,000 customers with additional fibers, like I said, at the extents of the town going out. Yes.
Can I go down short off?
Yes, maybe going out that direction, we'll have additional fibers at the extent of the city limit, and that's about a mile back from shore.
And other providers tie on for you, and how does that work?
That would actually be a negotiation with Wide Open. They want to, they've already expressed their desire to extend on out of town. And then the one thing that we really like about it is if a provider attaches to just Wide Open, which they're gonna charge a very small fee just for being housed in the building. They don't want to charge the providers because that's gonna deter them from being on the network. They're trying to make a really small charge for them. They've done this in other places, and they allowed all the providers to come on for free. And then they had a lot of folks who said, well, we're gonna form an internet company and get rich really fast and have terrible service. So they said, we'll charge a little bit just so we can make sure we've got a reputable company that's gonna attach. But once that provider is attached to the network, no matter where Wide Open builds, they will be on that network. So if they continue, and I know there's been some other discussions on some other small communities around the Otto area, if those providers are attached to Wide Open, then they will also immediately be in any other area that Wide Open goes into.
Have they suggested who these providers might be? We are most common ones. Go ahead.
They will, and already have, we've discussed as a town with the local ones that are on our networks right now. We began discussions with them, and we ultimately point them to Wide Open, but we as a town wanted to formally begin to invite each provider that's already in town to be on this network. And Wide Open also has another, which I do not know the name of, another provider that offers TV and internet services as well, that generally is on any network that they provide.
The conversation's going to connect to that, right? They're putting house to house, there's 2 country codes in there now.
Yes, there are. There's been a
Is
lot
that
of-
Wide Open?
No, it's not. They did discussions with them, but I think we were kind of holding up. It took a little longer. If you see, we did RFI in 2017, so we've been working out every detail in our contract. Some of the other country clubs said, look, we've got to do something now. And it's essentially, the driver of it was, we as a town began to see homes where folks would come in, they would talk to our planner and say, like, buy homes here, can you tell us about the services that are there? And they'd say, okay, well, what about internet? Because we have a lot of second homeowners who come from Atlanta, et cetera. And when they tell them about the internet, they'd say, oh, well, we're going somewhere else, goodbye. And so they move not only out of the city, but they also move out of the county, and then that's tax, because most of them are fluent, they're gonna come spend $1.5 million on a home, and they've got enough money to live anywhere in the country, so they used to move somewhere else. So that was one of the drivers that we had.
I guess you mentioned earlier, how many is this gonna affect, this fiber bill?
Around 3,000
Around 3,000.
homes passed.
And currently, y'all get how many folks with fiber?
With fiber, we're just under 100 right now.
And we're hitting how many with wireless?
Around 200. It's a total of in the 300 range right there.
And how is this, fiber bill gonna impact that wireless number? You
All of
anticipate
the
that it
city, all of the wireless customers in the city will be absorbed into the fiber. As we pass their home, they'll be attached to the fiber. And then anything as far as our fixed wireless that is pointing out into the county, it will not affect. We're,
got any
wide
idea
open.
how many of that 200 would come on?
I have to go back and look. I don't actually know the proper number. We've got a large number that are out in the county.
And Matt, can I not say that, they intend on taking over our wireless operation, and while we were kind of limited, we can't go beyond the city limits by putting out, antenna and everything. Since they're a private company, they can go wherever they want to gain customers and.
That's
And that
correct.
could-
Being we're spending taxpayer dollars, and actually we've worked out a deal with Wide Open that over a period of years, they'll actually pay back anything that's spent by the town. They will actually repay that. We're fronting the money for that, and then they'll begin a repayment process to the town. So there'll actually be a net loss of zero. Once it's, so it'll take about 20 years, but eventually that's how that'll work.
So at the first of the presentation, I said that I'd like to invite the commissioners in Macon County to become a partner. And we have partnerships already. For example, with our recreation program, we work great together in making sure that we have the recreation needs met for all the folks that live in that part of the county. So what I would like to propose is that you participate in this program too. We have borrowed money, we are investing in the future, and we believe it will impact that whole part of the county. And I'd like y'all to consider a capital commitment over the next 4 years, of possibly $250,000 each year for 4 years to help us, address this need in that area, with the idea that it's an investment that will help move the broadband network well beyond just the town of Highlands, but out into the county. Because I know you've had discussions, like all the commissions in Western Carolina, the need to connect people throughout the entire region. And it will benefit us from economic development, educational access, and most critically, also medical access. So I would appreciate y'all considering being our partner and making an investment and commitment to this effort that we've got underway. So I appreciate your time, and thank you very much.
Before you go, it's a pretty quick question.
Okay.
I just found out basically today that there was some grants awarded. Well, I'm just learning about all this. Did y'all apply for this?
No, we didn't. We've been working on this initiative, and one of the main things that we've had to do is to make sure that we're in compliance with House Bill 129, so we did not apply for the
County had, we applied when we were tier 1 county, we wouldn't have anything. That applied way back when we were tier 1. Tier 2s were not invited.
And I would suspect that if they looked at the financial record of Islands, we'd be at a disadvantage of getting support on it.
How long is the term of the loan, do you know?
The term of the loan is 15 years.
I was just gonna say, I think that funding from the state, you all are not a provider.
No, we're not.
I think that funding providers.
That's correct. And really, you know, we're in this process for several reasons. One, we've had our citizens who want to work from home. We have, you know, seasonal residents, and they're very concerned about having adequate broadband. So we've been very concerned about that. And also, since we have a utility grid, we can create a smart grid with this fiber optic network. But in keeping with the HB 129, we will not be the provider. We will not be providing content. That's what FIDO is our private partner.
Derek, do you remember, when we were gonna put this thing away and broadband homes?
Yes,
What board, will you get history on that?
we have, last year we appropriated into the governing board line item $400,000 for the economic development reserve fund. That was for the purpose of
We spend it,
we have not spent it.
anything the year prior?
No, the year prior was the first year.
This year, where you haven't built in your budget, obviously.
We have left $400,000.
And let me, Commissioner Tate, emphasize that this is really a capital request. It's not a long-term, you know, ongoing commitment, but, we need, assistance, we would appreciate assistance in helping moving this forward and getting it
I
started.
understand, it's just like the county's been involved with septic systems and water lines and other, like infrastructure.
And broadband is becoming the new utility that's becoming essential. So, any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it.
All right, presentation of community funding pool, Mr. Robert Eames. There you are, Robert.
Chairman Tate, Commissioners, thank you very much for the opportunity for me to present the Community Funding Pool Committee. Recommendations for funding for your very generous allocation of $75,000 for some very deserving nonprofits in the county. We've selected 11 of the 20 applications that met our criteria for acceptance. The trick here is to get exactly $75,000. And so, on a separate form, you may have what was requested by those who applied. But in any event, we do want to make an impact with the funds that are allocated by you all. So this is our recommendation for support for these folks. I would say that on behalf of the committee, and I'm sure all the citizens of Macon County, we've got some wonderful nonprofits that support many of our fellow citizens in need, and it's really a struggle not to be able to fund them all, but we can't do that, so I think we've made the best recommendation we can make on their behalf. Y'all have any questions? Ms. Burns, I think we followed the same process we followed for many years, and we were ably led by Karen Wallace, and now we've got our bylaws in hand. We're ready to go forward with the election officers and continue our work.
We need to take action on this time. We're just taking this under advisement, we'll take action on the future time.
The 75,000 is budgeted, so I think y'all normally approve it, because we need to get it spent by June 30th.
Go ahead and appropriate it.
So it's already appropriated, it just needs to be approved.
Okay, unless we've got a question, we have a motion to approve the recommendation.
Motion to approve the recommendations of the community funding pool.
Motion by Commissioner Bill, second by Commissioner Shields, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Robert.
You're quite welcome.
Thank you for all your work.
All right, item 9E, Town of Franklin Fire Department. Welcome. Mr. Fremont. Chief Freeland, would you like me to give a little history, or would you?
Sure, that'd be
You wanna
fine.
roll with it?
That would be fine with me, Chairman Tate, if you would like to. Franklin Fire Department is here tonight, just to give an update proposal. I would not mind at all. if you could give an update.
I don't have the minutes in front of me, so I'm quoting, I'm trying to recollect from memory. I believe we gave y'all a tax increase 3 years ago. And when we provided a tax increase, we asked that, there were 3 items to be accomplished. I think one was that you were gonna provide us, with, well, you're hiring 2 new individuals, 2 new firemen, which I think you did completely. Mr. Case, you're ready to something? And I know we're gonna get a plan from you on how to handle your class 9 and class 10 areas, how to provide those better service with that money. And then the third item was, let's see, we didn't have the balance in the North Carolina Firefighters Relief Fund. Those are the 3 items. So I think we've got proof that you probably on the relief fund. And then we had, on the 2 new employees, and I think we're waiting on the third plan of which you're gonna be there to provide better service to the department's class 9 and 10 areas. Actually, 4 items, and then, thank you, Warren. Go ahead. I think that gives us enough for, so we're finally gonna receive that plan.
Yes, sir. Good evening, County Commissioners. Thank you for allowing us to have this opportunity to bring the update proposal to you. I am Matt Breedlove, Fire Chief with Franklin Fire and Rescue, Town of Franklin. And I would like to present this presentation to you tonight. Just give you a little history to start with. Franklin Fire Department was the first fire department established in Macon County. We were established in 1911. We're a combination department. We're made up of 25 dedicated volunteers. We're made up of 7 full-time staff members and 10 part-time staff members. We have a strong desire to continue our tradition. Everyone in the community knows the Franklin Fire Department's been around, and we strive to continue that. We strive in that by providing fire prevention services, fire education, fire suppression, fire protection, and fire medical services, fire rescue services. So begin our proposal to Macon County tonight. We ask that we're allowed to continue the 2-person coverage 24 hours a day. This was implemented in July 2017 as one of your questions.
How many calls do y'all run per year?
Per year, we're approximately 2,000 right at that call volume. I think it was
6 per day.
on average, yes. There's some days that you run 14, some days that you run 8, just to be honest with you. Continue proposal. We work to provide the best service and rates to all citizens of Macon County. We ask that you allow us to follow our strategic plan. This plan outlines acquisition for a substation. It also allows us to provide services to insurance class 9 and 10 areas by doing so. Continuing to follow the 10-year strategic plan that the Town of Franklin adopted from Franklin Fire and Rescue. That plan was adopted on December 4th, 2017. This plan was then submitted in return to the Macon County Board of Commissioners on December 29th, 2017. And I would hope, I think it's been made possible that you have a copy of that in your hands tonight. If not, I'll be glad to get that for you. So how do we continue the service to our citizens? We ask that you allow us to establish a substation. We allow planning to extend those benefits to as many as possible. Areas that could greatly benefit from Franklin Fire and Rescue Substation includes Holly Springs, Corbin Cove, Piney Grove, Butterfly Subdivision, Sanderstown, and Onion Mountain communities. The homeowners in the above referred areas would then be eligible for lower insurance premiums. You may ask how much of a benefit. Franklin Fire and Rescue currently has an ISO rating of a 3 inside the municipal district and a 4 inside the rural district. The areas listed in the previous slide will go from a class 9-10 rating to a class 6, which is the best rating attainable for those areas. Furthermore, business and commercial properties would then be also eligible for a class 4 rating and class 4 benefits. The average homeowner in these areas could save around $300 annually on their homeowner's insurance. So my proposal to you on behalf of Franklin Fire Department tonight will be to keep Franklin Fire District as it is now by allowing us to continue exceptional services at our current tax rate of 0.0545 cents for $100 of valuation. Our commitment to Macon County. 2-person coverage 24 hours a day. We plan to establish acquisition and substation for insurance class 9 and 10 areas. We wish to continue to follow our 10-year strategic plan that the town of Franklin has adopted. So what do we ask of you in this board? We ask you please do not remove our previous tax increase. We ask you to please consider keeping Franklin Fire Department as it is currently. We wish to continue working in a cooperative working relationship with Macon County Board of Commissioners, Macon County citizens, Town of Franklin, Franklin Fire and Rescue, and the Macon County Emergency Management Office. We feel that this is the best for all Macon County residents and business owners. That ends my slideshow and my presentation. But however, I would like to add a personal note at this time. Some of you know me, born and raised here in Macon County. I'm proud to live here and serve this community. I've spent, since I was 14 years old in the fire service. And on top of that, I've spent 14 years in local law enforcement. I've also worked in a EMS part-time. Emergency services has my heart, and service to Macon County has my heart. I have a top-notch department, and the best benefit of Macon County to the citizens within it is at the heart of our department and our leadership. And I want you to know that. I ask that you find trust in that and give me the opportunity to prove that. So thank you for the time tonight. If you have any questions, I will be glad to try to answer those for you.
Should read those first one, I'm just glancing through the plan that was presented.
Yes, sir.
It says in 2018-19, it addresses one of the concerns we had, which was trying to get y'all to provide a better service for those class 9 and 10 areas. It also says that you're going to ask for a tax increase this year from 0.0545 to 0.0565. I presume that's not the case.
That is not the case. We was able to abstain without asking for a tax increase this year.
Do you have a plan or a time frame for which y'all would work for a substation?
Chairman, hopefully, as noted in this strategic plan, during the 2018-19 budget cycle, which ends June 30th, we hope to attain and acquire some type of concrete land acquisition. We are currently in the stages of that, and we hope to follow that. We do have a capital reserve line item in our budget upcoming to help sustain that. I hope that answers your question.
Will you be able to build a substation without tax increase? Do you think you got to borrow money, or?
I will tell you that the reserve is there, and I will tell you that I know our fund balance is in a healthy state. That may be a question better directed to the town management. And I'm fortunate enough to have the town manager here tonight if she wishes to take a conversation with that. However, I do think this is a viable option and do plan to proceed with that in the near future as well.
Sure.
Thank you guys so much for the opportunity tonight. Just to kind of piggyback off of what Chief Breedlove said and Commissioner Hill's question, we are weighing all options at this time, whether that could be a lease agreement, whether that could be acquisition of property. We're still kind of in the preliminary phases to look at that, but we would certainly do our due diligence and look what's best for Macon County residents and the town of Franklin residents, and try and do anything to where we would not ask for a tax increase, and that's why we're not asking for one this year as well.
That's good. And Chief Breedlove, I know you and I have discussed this before. I don't want you to think that I'm personally picking on the fire department for any reason. It's not only you, it's every department in the county that we want to see those insurance rates drop for the residents. I think it's in the best interest for everyone that where and when we can to make improvements. And I don't ever want y'all not growing, not trying to improve, not strive to be better. Again, kind of going forward, you're stagnant, you're going backwards.
Could not agree
I
more.
want y'all to be on top of it, and again, trying to continue to improve. And I'm happy to see that report. I don't remember, not that it had to come across with that, a lot of stuff comes across when I was reading that detail. I just appreciate you. So thank you.
Yes, sir. Any other questions from the board?
What is the circumference of your area that you will be covering?
Okay, that's divided up in a 5-mile and a 6-mile district from the station. Granted that we acquire a substation, we can cover most of Holly Springs and the listed areas within a 5-mile range.
Can you bump up any of the county departments, can you bump up to them, or Springfield bump up to any of the other outlying, I guess overlap is one I would say.
Okay, if I understand your question right, we do have district lines that meet other districts. We are sharing boundaries with Clark Chapel, Osage, Mountain Valley, and West Macon, currently, if I'm answering that right.
Right, just, you know, overlap you had, within 5 miles, or if there was any problem with another fire department, would come into their territory.
I'm not currently asking to take district away from another district. I'm not asking to push into another district. I'm just asking to improve a insurance rating for the customers that currently do not have that benefit within my current district. And that includes some of the Holly Springs community, the communities that I mentioned in the slideshow and the presentation tonight. Some of those areas and those residents and business owners in those areas could potentially gain great benefits from this.
Your circumference, that 5 miles circumference.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Mountain Valley Fire Department.
Here. Oh, I'm sorry, okay, I'm sorry.
Good evening. My name's Travis Waldrop, and I'm here tonight speaking on behalf of and as a member of Mountain Valley Fire and Rescue. First of all, I'd like to thank y'all for giving us the opportunity to speak with you tonight. As most of you may know, last April there were 6 fire departments in Macon County that underwent a state inspection by the North Carolina Office of State Fire Marshal. Prior to that time, Mountain Valley Fire and Rescue held an ISO fire protection rating of an 8B, which is graded on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being the best rating you can get. As a result of that inspection, Mountain Valley Fire and Rescue was able to improve their department rating to a 5, which is something we're all proud of. We feel that without the continued support of this board and the citizens of our community, our task in gaining this improved rating would have been a lot tougher. There were many hours, days, and months of hard work and dedication spent achieving this honor. We, as members of Mountain Valley Fire and Rescue, would like to further serve the citizens of Macon County, and that's why we're here tonight. We're here with a request and a proposal for expansion of our service district. and feel that we can save our homeowners and taxpayers hundreds and possibly thousands of dollars annually by covering area that would be well inside our proposed 5-mile district that currently lies outside of a neighboring department's 5-mile district, but is still in their current service area. In addition to this request, we're also asking that you as a board grant us additional district that is within that neighboring department's 5-mile district, but is, as you can see on the map, and I will stop right there and apologize for the size of the map, and I can certainly forward that to you by email so you can enlarge it and get greater detail. It is much closer to our station, the area that we're speaking of. We feel that we can provide a quicker response time to those homeowners with the same quality of service as they're currently getting. Mountain Valley Fire and Rescue currently has 30 active members on our roster, and our fleet of equipment is of the highest quality. We train 2 nights each week to maintain our skills and certification requirements necessary to perform our jobs to the highest level. Mountain Valley currently does not have any paid staff, but we hope to change that in order to provide even better response than what we're currently giving. Even though we do not have that paid person on duty, Mountain Valley has never had any delay in response with our fully volunteer membership. Although our primary reason for district change is not for financial reasons, the added tax revenue certainly would further enable our department to hire a paid fireman, provide even greater coverage to our area. We've been unable to reach that goal due to the financial constraints caused by our limited budget of small districts. Our current millage rate is 12.6 cents per $100 valuation in the area that we cover. In the newly acquired service area that lies outside the neighboring department's 5-mile area, we can provide these homeowners with an insurance rating of a 5 instead of their current rating of a 9E. There is also a handful of homeowners that live outside the 6-mile area who pay an insurance premium based on an ISO rating of 10, which is standard for any property outside of 6 road miles. Some insurance companies will not even provide coverage on properties that lie outside of the 6-mile range. Due to the location of our stations, we can provide all of these homeowners with an ISO rating of 5, as we stand today. Although these homeowners will see a slight increase in their annual fire tax, which is currently, as Chief Breedlove said, 5.45 cents per $100 valuation, they will see significant savings in their insurance premium, which is an average of about 54% from a 9E to a 5. And that far outweighs the increase in the fire tax. The overall savings for these home and property owners outside their existing 5-mile area, when you factor in the savings on the insurance, but the increase in fire tax, they're still going to save an average of 42% annually. In addition to the savings on the standard insurance premiums, most insurance agencies will extend even further savings to property and homeowners that are within 1.5 or 2.5 miles of their home station. This could be attributed to reserve engines, service trucks, and such. We as a department are prepared to initiate coverage to this additional area immediately, with no change in department structure or additional expenses to the department or the taxpayers, with the exception of the change in the millage rate in the requested area. Keep in mind, we're here tonight not asking for a millage rate increase, but simply asking for a change in service area. In the past, there has been occasional confusion as to which fire department should respond to a call due to the caller not knowing the correct address or only not knowing the name of the road. This is because a lot of the fire district lines are drawn across a roadway or through the middle of vacant land. One reason we're asking for additional district and to clear up some of this confusion is to simplify things by making them clear. Also, until just a few years ago, our home station was in another department's district. Members of our community have often wondered why another fire department was responding to a call near us and they had to drive past our home station to get there. Currently, as we speak, 360 degrees around the piece of property that Mountain Valley Fire and Rescue sits on is in another fire district. We respectfully ask that you consider this change in service area for Mountain Valley Fire and Rescue, as it would save these taxpayers hundreds of dollars annually and would also provide them with an improved response time from the fire department and first responders when a call for services is needed. Feel free to ask any questions if you'd like, and again, if you would like me to email that map so you can enlarge it and have a little more clarity in the area that I'm talking about, I will certainly do that. Thank you very much.
I must not know a whole lot about this.
Yes, sir.
But having worked with Westmaker, that's time. When another department overlaps with another person's jurisdiction, who gets the tax money?
There are currently clear, distinct service area district lines, and whichever district you are in, according to the tax office and by the mapping department, that is who gets the revenue from the taxpayer for their fire lane. There really isn't an overlap as much as, I mean, we all provide mutual aid and assistance to each other based on the need. There really isn't any overlap, so to speak. It's just, Mountain Valley is the newest, we're the baby in the crowd. We were created, the last department in the county to be created. And at that time, the area that we were covering, in the northeastern corner of the county, if you will, the piece of property that we were allowed to build our station on was actually inside someone else's district. Now, that piece of property itself, has been granted to us and included in our district, but we have to drive through someone else's district to get actually to our primary coverage.
Thank you, it's getting clear.
Travis, do you think if you do take over this part of the Franklin district, that you can hire the full-time fireman immediately?
We would begin the process of creating a job description very soon. Then there would be the advertising process for the job. Yes, that is, and again, I reiterate, we're not doing this for the money. We're doing it because we realize there's an area in the county that is, the homeowners and property owners are not within a certain range of a fire department. But yes, that's the primary reason when it comes to the revenue is so that we can put on a paid person and do that as soon as we can. Granted, if there
Are you the only department that don't have one?
no, sir. We do not currently have a paid person. Sky Valley, Scaly Mountain, they do not have a paid fireman. Nantahala Fire and Rescue is in the process of advertising for a part-time fireman. But basically, as we speak, unless they've hired someone very recently, we're the three departments in the county that doesn't have any paid person.
But that would be priority for Macon Valley Board of Directors.
Absolutely, yes, and, that's even gonna, that would benefit us, the people we currently serve, and the potential homeowners and property owners that we would be serving. Yes, that's priority number one.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I apologize.
What areas are you talking about incorporating?
Well, I'm not sure how familiar you are with where we currently serve, but we currently serve basically from the county line on County Mountain, the upper portion of the Wildflower development, upper portion of Brindle Road, Chickapin, upper Watauga Vista, that area. And then our station is actually located on the Echo Valley Road. The area that we're talking about is the area which is outside of 5 Mile, their current 5 Mile district, is primarily the Sanderstown, Thompson Branch, Lyle Knob, and Piney Grove areas. I actually am requesting a little more that is currently within their 5 miles so that it would generate us enough revenue to put that paid fireman on, which basically includes all of the Watauga Road area, anything addressed off of Sanderstown up to, but not including the convenience center there on 28. We would be able to provide all of Sanderstown, Piney Grove, Lyle Knob, Thompson Branch, all of Watauga Road, and out to near the Lake Emery 441 intersection, and that would be well within our 5-mile range, so that we can provide that ISO rating of 5, you know, without having to build, to move, to do anything. You know, we can currently cover it. So that's still the northeast corner of the county is where we're talking about.
And when you get to the other end of Sanderstown Road, that's
The Franklin Fire Department covers a portion of the 28, well, actually, Franklin Fire Department currently covers all of Sanderstown and anything off of Sanderstown. Now, Mountain Valley does have some service area in the uppermost part of Lyle Knob and Thompson Branch area, but currently Franklin Fire and Rescue serves all of Sanderstown. Annually, we run average of 125 calls. So we're definitely not overwhelmed.
And taking on this additional area would increase that by?
Oh, I'd say that would increase this by, as related to our call volume, 25%. I would say 25 to 30 calls a week.
Does Cali cover some of that, Travis?
Cowee Fire and Rescue covers 28 north, and the furthest south that they come is the convenience center where the dumpsters are there on 28 north, Sanderstown intersection. The rest of their area is north of that point.
So on Planty Grove,
No,
that's
sir.
within their 5 miles?
That is all in Franklin Fire and Rescue.
Big old out there.
Yes.
It's a convoluted situation. It's not just this district that we're talking about between these two. It's
Correct.
all the departments across the county have. It's just like, it's just like in your area where we just had Burlington, Cowie's new substations built. You got 2 5-mile areas that are really tight there. So in reality, from a taxpayer standpoint, in a perfect scenario, 1 station should have been built versus 2. But because of the way these fire districts are drawn, historical perspective and local politics, they just remain that way.
Any comment?
Sure. I'm a little hoarse, so bear with me.
Barn last night?
Basically, you've got 2 proposals here for you, and my recommendation would be not to take any action at all tonight, because there's a lot of things you need to think about all the different options that you have. Your involvement with the Franklin proposal is basically minimal at this point. The only thing that you would really need to do, they can construct the substation, they can do whatever they need to do. Only sticking point might be if they have an operation expense that extends beyond the fiscal year per our contract, just like you do with burn down. Maybe you get approval for that, but if they're not buying that truck or something that extends beyond that year, I don't know that that's a big deal. That you would come into play with them after the fact, because then they would ask us to inspect the substation. We would inspect the substation, redo the map, and then come and ask you to approve the map. That would, and it's not an overlap area. What it would do is it would change some of the 6-mile area to 5-mile area, and then we would approve the map locally, and it's in for approval. That would be your involvement with these folks. If you desire to change either response area or service district, there's 2 different ways you have to do that. Changing a service district is a process. You would have to have a report prepared that explains what you want to do. It has to explain the changes to the taxpayer. It has to be, you have to have a public hearing, and to do the changes, there's actually general statute 183, 43, or something like that. There's some guidelines in the statutes for you to change them. So there is a public hearing process and a procedure that we have to go through legally to change the service district.
which means that the Mountain Valley Circle would be extended and the Franklin Circle would be decreased, and the service rate that's inside Mountain Valley would go with the extension of the circle. The only other option you have is something similar to what we did with Palisades and Savannah Fire Department of Republican Town about a couple months ago. We had an area, remember, service districts and response areas are two different things. Service district is an area that's established by the county that we're able to put the service fee on, not necessarily tax, but a service fee. We can contract with one or more entities within that service district to provide that service. Traditionally, we do one. We give the whole service district to somebody. You could cut out part of that service district and contract part of it to them and part of it to them, and the rate would remain the same within the service district. However, that means that the revenue that they're gonna collect is not gonna be what they thought they were gonna collect, which may not allow them to do what they need to do, and it requires both of them to sign a new contract. So that's a whole other legal process we have to do on our end. So there's a lot of things that you need to think about, and the impact on the taxpayer and ultimately the citizens before you make any decision on it. So I think obviously there's a lot for you to think about tonight. And then once we get some direction, we can certainly look at some different options. One of the things that would make this easier, one of the recommendations we did in the fire study would be that if we had one service fee rate for all the rural districts, that was one of the recommendations we had, which would make this a lot easier, but we don't have that. It'd have been a lot easier 15 years ago if we had drawn circles and said, okay, here's a station, we want one right here. And we designed this thing 15 years ago, but we didn't know 15 years ago where we were gonna be. So unfortunately, we got a system that looks a little odd when you look at it the way it is now. Now that we've got departments that have lowered their ratings, that's even more important now. It's come into play a little more now that they have bettered themselves, all of them together over the years. It's a little more important to the taxpayers. So it's certainly not something I would recommend you making a decision on tonight. You may want to see what the public perspective is on this. Think about the options that you have. I mean, obviously, there's other issues out there that are really similar to this. They brought these to us, but they're not the only ones. So there's other issues that if we open the door to one, we gotta be prepared to open the door to the rest of it. So there's a whole lot of stuff that I would recommend you thinking back and thinking about. If you have questions, get with us, get with either the fire departments, or with me, or with Jimmy, or through Commissioner Tate, and we'll try and help you walk through the question process before you're able to come back and maybe make a recommendation.
We can go through the convoluted process with all the fire departments. This is still the best deal this deal is.
I agree.
I'll volunteer for it.
Absolutely.
No doubt about it.
Thank you. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, Travis.
All right, we've been going for 2.5 hours now. I was gonna ask how long Kim was gonna take.
Thank you, Ken. Ken,
Take a break.
Let's call a recess.
He's the guy.
Gray area. Recess.
Carl.
I'm gonna leave the camera running during the break. They'll be back in 5 or 10 minutes.
You going to graduate?
Yeah. But yes, there is something that they have to sign, yeah.
Strike
Hey, how are you? Good. They said that
We did the kids all.
no problem at all. We'll take care of it. If there's any issue at all. Did you have a chance to meet our chair or county manager? You know Ronnie Bill, right? Okay. Let's see. Yeah.
I know that. What do you?
Ten more minutes, not gonna make it.
He's been kind enough to help me, get some I don't anticipate any. I'm part of She's had all the money. I had to. Would you like me to drop you name? Let me see your doctor. There you go. I'll let them know that you had 3 hours.
That's great. That's
Where you
Where is it?
here. Thank y'all for what you do.
You did good.
That's why you're doing
You'll be good.
Get them done.
See?
Cleared it up, didn't it? Cleared it up.
Like 5 minutes, we're good.
Probably. It really is not gonna take me long. Besides, this is fun stuff.
Do what?
I said, this is fun stuff.
It's all fun.
Yeah, but the bills come in.
What everybody tells me. All fun.
Hey, could you send me this extra handouts via email tomorrow? Could you send me those extra handouts that they gave me by email tomorrow? Thank you.
Yeah, we'll post the budget on the county website. Send it out to the post. Yeah. Now, Derek's presentation, you'll have to ask him because he's crazy. But like the actual budget, we'll post all that on the website with the budget message and then all the funds. Derek will have to, yeah, because I don't have that presentation. He uses something called Prezi, and I always use that, so I don't have Prezi.
All right.
Yeah, oh, yeah. Yeah, it's hard to see on the little screens. Ready to go home? Well, Ronnie rounded us up.
I know, Carl was in here wanting to know if I was gonna hurry, that I wouldn't
Hey.
take off.
Tell them 10 minutes is up, Mike.
Yeah.
Wait a minute here, wait a minute.
They didn't designate you, sergeant at arms?
I'll let the chairman worry about it. There he is, he's good.
I think Mike should be sergeant at arms.
Yeah, Ronnie came and rounded us up. I said, okay, where is everybody? Everybody go home?
Don't want to really keep talking.
Everybody, the rest of us go fast. Yeah.
We got to play on that first 26th.
Yeah,
Call us, Pop.
you get giddy when
We should do it like.
It wouldn't take much state and stuff.
You really
know.
think that?
That's the way I feel. It's a good thump on the head.
Oh, Jim. Sign this, please.
I'm not.
That way I'll have to wait after the meeting. No, this is the application.
Yeah, y'all, it's terrible though. I was sitting there.
You gotta approve it, I'll throw it away. And I'm sure you're gonna approve it, it's $190-something, right? Thank you.
She kept threatening. Mr. Cade?
I just think I'm the one going on 5 minutes early.
We all decided we're going to Federal House after this.
Sounds good to me.
Routine basics.
Good thing everyone knows that's right.
You stand right outside the door.
There he is.
Yes, yes.
All right, I'll call us back to order.
Where you from?
Eat.
My brother, but two separate brothers. All right.
He's in charge. He dropped the gavel. Let's go.
Yeah, he dropped the gavel, so I'm
There
just
he
doing what
is.
I am told.
What found you?
How we did something else.
It's in the refrigerator.
So my apologies for showing up with good news on such a busy night. I will promise I will go through my presentation quickly. When we talked about this a few years ago, I had promised to come back and let you know how the propane program was going. It has taken us a little while to get to 100% of use on our vehicles, so that's why it has taken me a while to get back to you. So, first, just real quick, why did we decide to use propane? Mostly because it's lower in cost than gasoline. I know that's the third bullet point you see on your presentation. But just so you know that it's produced mostly in the United States, it reduces dependency on foreign oil, and it lowers greenhouse gas emissions. So just briefly, it has been since December of 2015 since we first started talking about this project. That was when the bid was approved for the construction of our propane station. After that point, from March to June of 2016, the construction of the propane station took place. We started ordering our propane conversion systems for our vehicles. So pretty much fiscal year 16, we didn't get anything done except getting the propane station built and getting those first systems in. So then things kind of started rocking and rolling from December until the end of fiscal year 17. We had 7 additional propane systems ordered and put on vehicles. That brought us up to 11 of the 14 that could be converted. So July through June of 2018, we put 2 more vehicles on there. That created a 13 out of 14 situation. And this month, as a matter of fact, we just replaced the last vehicle that did not have a propane conversion, so we are at 100% at this point. The next couple of slides I'm going to talk about kind of some savings, but I needed to kind of give you this background. And I've mentioned it to you before, but again, I'm just trying to refresh your memory on this. There's this, the federal government, the U.S. Congress, has authorized in the past an alternative fuel credit. Basically what that does is give us 50 cents a gallon. It's actually gas equivalent, so it nets to about 35 cents a gallon for propane that we buy. It's a little different in the fact that it's approved on an annual basis. It's only 1 year at a time. And what has happened historically over the last few years is in 2018, for example, they approved it for 2017, and they use calendar year rather than federal fiscal year or state fiscal years. So there is a current bill that has a 2018 credit as part of the bill that is in Congress right now, but it has not been passed yet. So we do not know if we're going to see a credit. So when you see the savings, keep in mind that when we first started, we were giving a credit for the first year and a half we did this, we got the credit. For the last year and a half that we've done it, we have not. So just to give you an idea of our costs, first year was our fueling station, and that was 100% cost of the county. It cost a little over $28,000. The initial purchase of the 4 propane conversion systems was about $3,461. The following year, we put 9 additional systems on. That was a cost of $13,000. The reason it was as much as it was is there was one vehicle that was not eligible under NCDOT guidelines because of mileage. We couldn't get grant money for that, the cost of that one system. But we knew we were going to have it for a length of time because we weren't getting a lot of miles on it at the time. So we decided to go ahead and purchase that system at 100%, and it was $69.95. In FY18, we didn't purchase any new systems. We got a minivan, and it was the only vehicle that we replaced. This year, with the 3 that we have purchased, our cost share is going to be $2,099. So the total 4-year investment cost has been $47,433. All right, so this is our savings when you're talking about propane versus fuel. First year, there was 0 savings. It cost the entire year. And we were not buying propane. We were still running everything on gasoline. Fiscal year 17, and again, you know, remember we were incrementally adding vehicles. So, our savings in purchasing propane over what we would have been purchasing fuel for was $11,680. $9,029 then additionally we got in the alt fuel tax credit, and that comes as a check. From who? Somewhere. Yeah. So the total savings for, the first year was $20,709. For FY18, in purchasing propane versus if we had been purchasing fuel, it was $11,854 in savings, plus an additional $6,170 in the alt fuel credit. So the total savings in fiscal year 18 was $18,024. And for FY19 in propane versus fuel through April is $15,028, and we have not had any credit for the alt fuel at this point. So year to date through April 30th of this year has been $15,028. So the total 4-year savings for the propane program has been $53,761. I think Derek had mentioned that. I told him not to steal my thunder. So what did that mean? Savings versus cost, it paid for itself. In 18 months, the savings paid for what that 100% cost for the infrastructure was. Fueling station plus the cost of all systems were paid in less than 3 years. And we are now in the black. So we are at a positive $6,329 in savings above what we spent. So the savings at this point, you know, what we hope to do is we hope to continue that. I don't think there's going to be any problem with continuing the savings cost. If for some reason propane takes some huge leap over gasoline, the great thing about a biofuel system is we just don't use the propane, we use gasoline. That's the great thing. So far, we haven't had a lot of problems. We haven't had any, there's more than like a couple of months where propane was low. It may have taken me 3 years. I did, while you were on break, put a brochure that I got hold of this afternoon, which is very informational, talks about propane and vehicles.
Are you seeing electric buses in the state?
There is movement. Actually, North Carolina is going to get 2 of the, not just electric, but autonomous vehicles that don't even require a driver. They're going to be piloting those over the next year. There is some, you know, obviously with electric, when you start trying to run up and down mountains, you start worrying about the use of, I think we're a little ways off from even piloting electric here yet.
Let's read an article. The city of New York took the first electric cars.
The Ford Transits, like we use, the vans, they are producing an electric Ford Transit. Yeah, I would be hesitant to try that here because of, in Chattanooga, they run electric. So if you've ever been to downtown Chattanooga, they run the little buses up and down, just up and down the street all day long. They get about an 8-hour charge out of those, and it's a flat, you know, back and forth. And I think the battery range here, we are, I don't think the technology has reached that. And one of the things I just heard at a conference is, a lot of the problem is they're still using transmission and drivetrain technology that's built for gasoline and trying to put it in electric vehicles. Now that's as mechanical as I can get out of it. So, other questions about the propane program?
Very good.
I'm very happy to finally report to you, and again, I'm glad that I could report that we are in savings now. Well, they authorized it last year for 2017. So it's done. We have not gotten any credit for 2018 at all. But again, there's a bill apparently in somewhere in the federal, either the House or the Senate, at the federal level, that includes reauthorization of this credit for 2018. And if that bill passes, then we'll go and we'll get that. It's kind of a little odd with us because like last year we ended up, you know, I keep up with the numbers based on our fiscal year. Those credits are based on calendar year. So the information I'm giving you is actually based on our numbers and not when it came in exactly. So, because we did get it, it just took a little bit longer. So let's talk about advertising. Seems like I was just here talking about that. In December was when we talked about it. And again, I had planned to come with propane, but I'm so excited at how well this program is doing. I had to give you just a real brief update on that. You got to know the background. I'm not going to go through a lot of this because it's 9 o'clock. So let's talk about how we're doing. We have 16 businesses with ad space on our vehicles. Some of those businesses have multiple ads on multiple vehicles. Our advertising revenue as of today in our budget is $22,782. We have spent $3,348 in production of the ads. And as you'll recall, my staff are the ones who are actually installing the ads, so the only thing we're paying for is advertisements. It's just the cost of the production. So our profit as of today is $19,434, which, given the fact that there may be some federal loss of money next year, we were very, very happy to know that we were proactive enough to do this. I feel like that's the thing I want to let you know, is I felt like we were very proactive when we did this.
So I can put on our ambulances.
Again, I am not in on that conversation. I don't know that it's for any other department, but it has certainly been, you know, between propane and advertising, it's certainly been a great thing for us. Just real quick, I'm through with words. I'm going to show you pictures. This is our, John Becker, I don't know if you know him or not, with Wildhead Realty. If you don't know him, I know you have seen his other ads. He has taken the whole vehicle, both sides of the vehicle, and the back of the vehicle. There's some of the other vehicles.
They look really good.
The ads look first rate. Very nice.
We are, and again, I guess, you know, I'm just so proud, of my staff.
By the
who
way,
work so
the Mini
hard.
Mart BP sells gas.
Still got an ad on the back.
You don't sell propane.
But we are very pleased at how well they have turned out. If you walk inside the vehicle, you can see outside the vehicle without any issues at all.
Well, they look great.
My staff are very careful if where there are emergency windows. They do try to cut around those and make those ads fit on those emergency windows. Todd, sorry. So we can get them out should anything ever happen. But I'm really super, super pleased at how nice they have turned out. I feel like